Oh, word to the wise! We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes, as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us, which today would be through Gaslight all the way down to Calagah in the Sun Eater series, Book 1, Empire of Silence.
Also, this week is sponsored by Beer is the Mind Killer. Thank you so much to Beer is the Mind Killer for sponsoring the podcast and continuing to do so. You can get 10% off at their Etsy shop by using the code MADNESS. Space Madness, as Josh is suggesting. They've got all kinds of nerdy merch. They're continuing to launch more and more. Highly recommend checking them out. There's some interesting stuff, including like something I haven't talked about before, but like the John Gwynn series has several things. He continues to launch deeper and deeper into the realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb as well, including some incredible prints that I both can't wait to buy and can't wait to look at because I haven't read the whole series yet. So like I haven't even stared at some of these things, but for those of you who might love that, check them out. Again, thank you to Beer is the Mind Killer for sponsoring the episode. You can use our code MADNESS, 10% off. Love you so much. Hey there, this is Kross.
And this is Josh.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers like. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club. Josh, before I kick it to you, I have to say, PJ texted me today.
Uh-oh.
And he said that he's read this book twice since we started reading it.
Whoa! No way!
He's read the whole thing twice. And he's so excited to talk about it in our wrap-up episode. But he was like, it's crazy. It's interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, I've read everything that we've read so far 3 times. So.
Yeah, right. I know. Like, it's no different. I think that part of, if I'm trying to piece out his rationale, I feel like he feels the need to still do that so they can get everything out of it like we were.
Yeah.
But he read through it once and then he did it a whole second time. And I'm like, that's a different kind of commitment versus like rereading chunks of chapters,
Oh, yeah.
Like
just going back through a second time. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely wild. So
damn. Well, hey, big ups, PJ. I don't know if I've ever just straight up like sit down, turn around, do the book again.
He's got 7 more books to read, 8 more books to read, 9 more books to read, including the novellas.
He's got 18 more reads.
So many more reads. Yeah, it was shocking. And then he simultaneously texted me about that, and he started The Lesser Devil today, which is the novella. He finished that, and he started Helling Dark. So like, man's racing, man's reading.
I'm starting to think PJ kind of likes these books.
Kind of likes them a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with him about it. Obviously, when we finish the end of this, but. It's fun.
I'm super excited to chat with him. I haven't talked to PJ since like the last time we were all on a mic together.
Oh man, that's well, I mean, we did the intro episode, forever ago, which was a little, like that was more formal in a lot of ways versus like just hanging out, like having a good time.
Man.
So
I need to hang out with PJ.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that was the last time that I seriously talked to PJ as well. Like for a significant period of time.
For,
I guess
for like a full hangout.
Yeah. So soon, more. That said, I stole your filler from you. Did you have anything fun to say? Josh, are you fun?
I guess all I'll say, since we're talking about PJ reading the book and stuff, is I've officially hit the point of reading this book where I start telling everybody I know they should read this book. It's really good.
It's a pretty fucking good book. It does, man, I'll tell you what, it does take a second to like really sink its teeth into you, but when it does, you're like, I was thinking about this earlier as a comparison point. Empire of Silence doesn't adhere to normal structure of stories at all.
Not at all.
It feels more like a season of TV in which not only did I do this for the podcast, but like as we think about it, it's almost like episodes as you're kind of walking through the story as opposed to an overall arc. So,
yeah, it definitely takes its time. It's enjoyable the whole way. Like I'm having a good time with it. But like, I think this section is really where, to me, and I guess we'll see where we go. Maybe they just abandon the whole through line, but like it's where they really start to actually set up like an ongoing mystery, like a further out into the galaxy central plot line that's not just kind of like, hey, let's watch this guy's life be bad, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think like right in this section I was already really enjoying it. There was a lot to recommend, but this section is kind of where like it started to sink its teeth into me, where I'm like, oh, I'm starting to like see a bigger narrative starting to form out in deep space, you know. And I'm excited for it.
It really begins to do that here. So I'm glad that you kind of latched on to that. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about it today as I was kind of reviewing my thoughts, and I was like, man, this isn't like a normal book by any stretch of the imagination. So glad it worked. Terrified that it wouldn't. Obviously, like especially new co-host, new like
Yeah.
series, new everything else. Kind of a weird book.
If
I
I
don't
just
fucking know.
hated this book and I was locked
Oh,
in for like
My
8 more,
God, can you imagine if
just
it were
pissed the whole time? You're like,
Yikes.
all right, we're gonna talk about Gaslight now. Do you have any thoughts? No.
No, I'm so done with you, buddy. By the way, Gaslight, fucking you gaslighted me into liking this. You tried. That said,
Just heckle you through the entire thing.
yeah, to give this a rundown, today, Empire of Silence, Christopher Rocchio. We're reading and talking specifically through Gaslight, through Calagah. With that vibe check, where you at? How you feeling?
I mean, I guess I kind
You
of
gave
used
a
the
little bit of
filler
that,
section
but,
to
yeah.
do a vibe check, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great, even. Last section, I think I mentioned, was a bit of a harder section for me to latch into. This section I've read through 3 times. Each time was super enjoyable, and I like found something a little new on each read. This is definitely a section where like the story's doing stuff, and I like that. It's kind of like a little it's its own little ecosystem of like an entire story. You know,
Yeah.
you've got budding romance, you've got violent overlord, not an overlord, just a weird little priest, but somebody, a violent oppressor.
Yeah.
You've got a gladiatorial duel for honor. You've got a slave uprising. You've got a mystery, conspiracy of the church, and you've got a plan to marry off to the king's daughter. It's like a classic like fairy tale story all wrapped into these like couple of chapters. Almost like it kind of hits every point of like its own little narrative.
Yeah, and again, I can't help but draw, just because our podcast exists in the like wake of Red Rising, right, to some degree. But like this reminds me in many ways of like where people draw the line in Golden Sun, generally, with like them either liking or not liking the series, which is around the gala. And this feels very gala adjacent, you know, in a lot of ways.
100%.
That's without spoilers for anyone, you know.
And naturally. I would say that the gala, you know, it's kind of a hard ask. If to tell someone like, hey, read these books, you'll know about 100 pages into the second book if you like this or not.
Right. And this
but
is
I
like
do think
500 pages into the first book. So
I was gonna say it's in the first book, so that's a slightly easier ask. But I think page-wise, it might be the same amount of words in as the Gala.
It's about as deep, if not deeper.
Sure. So it's a big ask to get here, but I don't think the journey's been unenjoyable, by any means. It's been very good, but I do think that this is where we're starting to note a little bit more like ramp up, and it's really starting to grip me. I will also say, what is the name of the audiobook narrator?
Samuel Rukin. Yeah.
Samuel Rukin has been doing a great job the whole time. I do feel like this chapter may have been where I started to like really notice that he's very good.
Okay.
Or not this chapter, but the section.
But the section. Yeah.
There's I think that he maybe gets the most opportunity to play with like, oh, you have a person from like 3 different worlds, 3 different cultures, all having a conversation in a room here. We get like Valka and Switch and Hadrian in a conversation in kind of a fast-paced, conversational, light-toned scene where he actually gets to kind of stretch his legs, do some accents, bring some like character into these voices, because it's hard with a book that's written with this kind of storytelling device where so much of it's going to be in a very like simple, somber, dry, like reminiscent tone. You don't get to play with it like an Abercrombie might get to, you know? And it's definitely not like monotone at all, but like, you know, he just kind of has to deliver the story as a memory.
Yeah, right. And that's why I say practically monotone. Like it isn't, but also like he is just stuck in delivering like Hadrian's ideals and ideas. And this is finally, I think, a point in the story in which we get introduced to multiple concepts, multiple people interacting at the same time, and that lends itself to like a very natural expression from an audio narrative.
Like we get, you know, we get those other characters back in like whenever he's getting on the ship way back when, like to escape. I'm trying to remember the name of these one-off characters that we meet for a second, and then
the ship. What was the
whenever he's or there's like the Saltus, the homunculus.
Saltus, yeah, that's
and
enough.
Then there's
that
the
ship.
captain.
Yep.
We get like
that guy,
the
captain, that guy. Yep.
We get these different characters, but he kind of has singular scenes with each of them, and it bounces around, and there's a lot more narration than there is dialogue. Whereas in this section, we get a chapter that's more dialogue than narration.
And like our friends come back, you know, to some degree, between both like Polino previously, I think that was last week, and then also like Switch this week. So it feels like we're actually like we're building. This week feels like we have characters as opposed to before. Like characters were like set dressing, you know, to like ideas.
That I
now
totally
we got friends. You know,
I agree. So that's my vibes. Those are my vibes.
Okay,
going into this, yeah,
cool. Love those
vibes. What do you think's gonna happen?
I think that this is going to go great. It's going to go so well. It's going to be so good for everyone involved. We're all going to have a good time.
Better.
The archaeology is going to go real well. There's going to be no problems.
It's just the rest of the book is an archaeology book, right? Like cool little discoveries.
Right, for sure. Like it's mostly about rocks.
Sign me up for a rock book, honestly. Give me that
at this
next.
point. You're like
happy little rock book.
Christopher Rockio is gonna be like,
okay, Rockio, I see
all right.
you. I see.
All right,
Mr.
Doing. Rockio, you've got 7 books and then a couple of extra shits in there.
Everybody likes
They're
to
all
talk
about
author self-inserts. I think Rockio's self-inserts just all the obelisks.
For sure. All right, with that, we can start breaking down the chapters. We'll start here with Gaslight. We open with Hadrian getting used to his surroundings in the castle of Borosevo, comparing them to breaking in a new pair of shoes. His friendship with Valka also continues to deepen over the course of not only this chapter, but also this whole week. And Hadrian has been given free rein to wander around more and more in the evening as he catches himself out there.
Yeah, in the evening, in the night times. Yeah, the beer thing does
I'm
reset
still not
my
over
focus.
It. It's crazy.
It's now that I know that it works. I mean, you're gonna see it a lot.
For people who've been paying attention on the video version of the podcast, it's crazy. Anyway,
yeah. So Hadrian can move around the castle at his will and go do whatever he wants in the nighttime. And you know what he wants to do in the nighttime.
Well, Valka doesn't, which is a part of the problem.
No, but he does.
He's very aware. Yeah,
very much so wants to. I mean, Valka wants to, just not really with him.
He doesn't know. Yeah, the older woman, you know.
Yeah. Hey, man, we all love an older doctor, right? But
he's got a little quote here, just to give him a little bit of credit. I love this. But perhaps you will forgive a young man his dreams. I had suffered much. I had a right to dream. And given the context of the rest of the story, I think that you might agree that he can dream and he can think of some better, brighter future, not only from a relationship perspective, but everything else.
I mean, I kind of love this like pining. It's like a nice break from him being Aladdin Batman.
Yeah, not wrong. Absolutely accurate, actually.
It's like it's sweet, it's good, it builds his character in a way I think that is necessary to make him a likable character. I do like Hadrian, but also like I think that this is one of those moments where I actually start to feel for him a little bit more. And he has suffered a lot, and he does have a right to dream, and let him have his little moment. Also, after everything he's gone through, I do find it a little like he's like, I've suffered, I can dream, and I'm like, you've lived a few years the way that majority of people do. And you're like, I have suffered. I'm like, lots of people do that forever, but you know, you did it for a couple of years. So.
Yeah.
And he has suffered. He definitely has. He's been through some shit, but
right. I don't want to downplay exactly what you're saying right now, but I do think that I just like have to give Hayden the smallest bit of credence and credit where it's like, yeah, we don't even know what he's suffered yet at this point. So like let him like as a child ruminate.
That's
and
true.
Like as an adult reflecting his child ruminations, you know.
If this is a reflection of what he's suffered as he's writing it, 100%.
Which I kind of feel like it is as he's reflecting on this line. Like he's also indulging his youthful attitude as well. So like,
and there's also not like there's no there's no Pain Olympics, you know, like he has certainly suffered. But
well,
there
is for multiple, Adrian, but
yeah. Oh, but I do find that like there's a grating sense to his like living on the streets for a few years, thinking it makes him a specific way, and then now he's like in the palace and he's back to being like, I'm in a cage, you know, like. Whereas like, what would Cat have given to be in a cage in a palace, you know?
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
But that's a deeper conversation. It doesn't like, I think it's a very valid view for someone like Hadrian. I think it's written really well. I think it makes a lot of sense for his character. But there is that piece of me that like his privilege he's gotten his privilege shaved down a lot since we started. But it's like still in there, you know?
Yeah, and he reflects on it, especially in the last week against like Aeneas and Dorian and sort of like their respective like opinions on different things. So like I think that it's important to recognize, but also like, yeah, I don't know. Dude could be in a way worse situation, and I think he's also acknowledging that simultaneously.
He does. I think he mentions, you know, like it might be in this chapter where he like gets stopped in the hallway by like a fan and he's like, I was getting comfortable, like it might have been a prison, but it was like it's like new shoes and I was breaking them in, you know, like I was feeling good about where I was. So
yeah,
but you know, it's just I like to for some reason in that line when he's like, I've suffered much, I'm like, everybody you suffered that with is still suffering that.
Yeah, they're suffering way worse actually.
Yeah,
as a base.
So,
yeah. That said, he runs into Gilliam Vass, of course, of whom we believe to be the worst man upon the planet in which we are dealing with for the rest of this week, and for the vast majority of the week.
He's yet to prove otherwise, and I don't think he'll have many more chances. So.
I don't think he has any more opportunities given the way that the week goes. But there's a great quote here that I love. If your family's dignity hangs by so thin a thread, your reverence, that such as I threaten it, well, how much is it worth? Gilliam then from there backhands Hadrian, leading for Hadrian to consider extending a duel to this man, but he can't because his identity remains concealed for this immediate moment. So he is thinking about it as like Gilliam really kind of lays into him.
That's not 1, 2, or 3 shadowing. That's some foreshadowing. Right
yeah,
there.
that's some 5 shadowing, 6 shadowing even. I will say, like, I did consider adding this into last week's reading, but I was like, man,
no, this is
like better talk about it all at once as it happens.
Yeah,
you know,
because I mean, we set up the kind of conflict with Gilliam.
Yeah, right.
Last week, you start to lay the groundwork for that feud, but I think that this is really where like the concept of this is going to come to a head. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have that fight. I know you're staring at me, but it's going to work.
It's impossible not for me to laugh. I'm so sorry.
It's not working. It's not working.
Today it's not. You're just a little too red. It's crazy.
All right. Well,
there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that like starting the reading here, because it really makes this whole section about the duel. You know, this is where the
which
duel...
it mostly is about the duel. Yeah.
Sure, he doesn't declare the duel here. This is where the duel begins. This instance here is kind of like what allows him to even have the duel be approved later. Right.
Yeah.
I also like whenever he kind of throws it back in his face, he's like, oh, you would know like all about half-breeds, right? Like
as he's calling him in the moment, and it's like, oh God. Yeah.
Okay, and sure. I like this switch from like Hadrian, the character he's playing. He gets hit, he stumbles, he yelps a little. Mm-hmm. He gets hit a second time, and it's him kind of like now he's back in, like, you know, the little courtesan slips a little, and he just maintains eye contact. And by the last hit, he just doesn't even blink. And then on the fourth swing, that's whenever like the Hadrian, the master trained noble
Hadrian the
comes out.
asshole. Yeah.
Hadrian the asshole just shifts back so it doesn't even hit him. That's that crooked, evil Marlowe smile, you know, like so it's fun to see him just kind of like with each hit, Gilliam unknowingly is kind of like shattering away this character that Hadrian's playing, and Gilliam has no clue that that character that Hadrian's playing is the thing keeping Gilliam alive right now. So it's just kind of like interesting also to see like this like very dogmatic, very I can't think of the word right now, but just this intensely self-righteous, self-important religious figure unknowingly smashing away at the like his own protection, thinking he's invincible. And I think that that's kind of like a fun way to view it. Gilliam's like just like torturing a bear thinking it's a squirrel.
Exactly. And like it's only made worse by the fact that he like directly insults like Valka in addition, and like he doesn't know that Valka matters that much to Hadrian in the moment, but he's like that Demarcus witch, right? Which moves him into an even deeper conspiracy. And just to flash forward a little bit from a mentality perspective, I also find it interesting to reflect on the fact that like he lies actively to Valka about this moment and about a couple of other things as opposed to like his heritage and things like that, so as to make it seem like this is both a lesser experience and a greater experience from like a personnel, like a caste system perspective.
Definitely.
So it's weird. It's interesting. Fucking Hadrian, lying asshole. We love him.
You know,
our boy.
He might be an asshole, but every now and then, I mean, mostly just in the back half of the book. He didn't do a lot in the front half, but every now and then he gets a little chance to aura farm, and it's pretty cool.
He's pretty good at aura farming, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, let's just say whenever I watch Dune 2, I know he's the bad guy, but he looks so good doing it. Timmy Chalamet.
So good. Man, I fucking know you're a bad man. And it's only going to get worse in Dune Part 3, which no one's going to understand that you were the villain the whole time. But I'm so excited for everyone to be disappointed in that movie.
Should no one ever root for or associate with and think Tyler Durden is their hero? Yeah, for sure.
My God.
Does his jacket look so sick?
Right there is a fucking copy of Fight Club that's signed by the author, personalized to me, and it's important for me to reiterate, Tyler Durden's not a good fucking guy, and if you thought that, you gotta really evaluate your life. Also, if you thought the narrator was a good guy, you gotta really evaluate your life.
I was gonna say, in his defense, Tyler Durden's not a guy at all.
No, right? So, yeah. You fucked
Spoilers
up
entirely. If you don't know the plot of Fight Club.
It's been fucking, since the book was written 27 years, 28 years. Yeah.
Bruce Willis is dead at the end of Sixth Sense. If you've never watched Sixth Sense and you've also never listened to Lonely Island.
By the way, Memento is told backwards from the moment in which he kills. Just kidding.
In The Prestige, they are twins, but just in case nobody's seen it yet. We won't do Interstellar. That might be too recent for you.
It's 2010, so we'll give you a break. Another 5 years and it's open season. Yeah, right. Jesus
all right.
Okay, so with that, we'll move
also,
on.
I can't do Interstellar because I think I've never seen it. No.
Oh, you've never seen it? Okay, well, that's fair. All right, anyways. Fine. It's cool. With that, we'll move into the quiet here. Hadrian continues on with his plan that he'd set out for with the evening, despite being backhanded by this man, with his bottle of canned green red to Valka's room when a naked man stumbles out, apologizing. Hadrian makes it into the room to the man, not the man apologizing to him. It's very strange. He's sort of embarrassed, having thought himself to maybe be the target of her affections, and she apologizes for having lost track of time. Hadrian's mind wanders to Kat and her death and some guilt. How do you feel about like Hadrian's romantic mental wanderings here?
This is a fun scene because it's such a coming of age moment. Like, we've all gone to the bedroom of the person we have a massive crush on, only to open the door to find she has like a concubine that she's sleeping with leaving.
Absolutely. So many times.
That's like,
Man.
that's what it means to be 16, you know? Right?
For sure. Definitely. Yeah. I've walked into so many rooms with concubines. For sure.
I mean, high school's crazy.
So relatable.
No, this is
just me and the conks, you know.
Just out here rocking with the conks.
Anyway.
I can't decide if I love or hate the phrase conk.
The conks, yeah.
The conks, you know.
I despise it, but it's also so
that's
good.
such like a perfect like Shaw dude California slang for a prostitute.
Dude. I've been hanging out with the conks this week. Yeah,
bro, we were walking down the street and so these ladies were coming up and I was like, oh, y'all conks? And they're like, yeah, dude, we're conking. And I was like, oh, good for you, but like, oh, got no money. You know? Like,
oh my god. Fucking conks.
It's so good. I'm gonna make conks a thing.
We might make conks a thing right here, right now. Oh god. All right.
Anyways, I like this scene. It's a little sad. It's a little funny. It gives us a moment to see Hadrian as a person. It gives us a chance to know that Valka does indeed fuck. Everything I needed to know.
Valka fucks so much and as often as she needs to. You know?
Yeah. I mean, hey, when the conks are on the house.
I mean, what do you do? She does specifically say that like she's not expressing interest in him as a person. It's definitely just that sort of a thing, which I find very refreshing in a lot of ways. Like they're, you know, if we compare this to like Joe Abercrombie and Pierce Brown in that way, like both of them I think do pretty good jobs of like addressing sexual relationships from the other side, but I think that this almost does it better where it's like I've got desires that need to be met.
I don't know if Joe ever did sexual relationship from the other side. Specifically, the demons never actually make it back out.
Well,
so
good one,
right?
Good fucking. That was a good.
You
joke.
Can't touch the other side. That's like the whole rule. You
really
can't fuck the other side.
For me specifically, I love that. I'm just depressed that I missed it.
Yeah,
mostly.
You set yourself up for it.
Oh no.
Anyways, yeah. I do love that. I also think it's funny because she's like, "Oh, I forgot about our standing meeting," kind of in a way that like almost implies like this, like her, like this conkin that she's doing right now. That's also a standing meeting. Like she had it on her calendar.
No, that's a lay down meeting, but that's fine.
I don't know how they did it.
I can't say. Might have been
he was standing when he opened the door. He wasn't far from the door, you know. So the knock was answered quickly.
He was around.
Yeah, he was already up. That's all I'm saying. In a few ways.
He had a pillow, so maybe waving his standard around. That's fine.
Anyway, I like the idea that her calendar probably says like stare at sketches of Uman circles at 3.
Get fucked. And then
ponder the quiet at 4. Like tickly dickly at 5, and then like Hadrian will be here with wine at 6, and all I have to do is tell him about the circles I stared at earlier. And he'll keep bringing me overly priced wine I couldn't get on my own. So yeah,
perfect, ideal. With that said, we get to the meat of the chapter. But not the meat. I think the meat just left. The meat left the door. Yeah, that of xenoarchaeology, which is very interesting, reflecting on the Amand, the Oak Khalil, Calagah's stonework. She presents him with an image. Hadrian takes stabs at guessing how old the site is before Valka reveals that it fully predates the entirety of humanity, somewhere between 700,000 and 1 million years old. Further, she talks about other species like those of Settle Sud and those of the Marching Towers, which finally leads Hadrian to a frightening conclusion that Calagah wasn't built by the Umand, but by another species, the Quiet.
This is like, I love this shit. This is the stuff I want. The second she was like, we call them the Quiet, I was like, oh shit, yeah. I've already talked about on this podcast about this book the like Mass Effect vibes this like deep mystery gives me. The Quiet, I mean, come on, they're so the Reapers. I mean, I don't know if they'll perform the same type of plot, but like just that idea of this like super ancient, like pre this cycle society. Like, okay, what is the secular nature of getting to the stars and being decimated until there's nothing left? How long have the Quiet been around? Are they the first and then we're the second, or are they the first and then there's been hundreds and then they've been completely, if there's nothing left behind from the Quiet sites, how is it possible that there's nothing left behind from the last people's sites? I mean, there's just it gets me going, it gets me jazzed, just like Hadrian. I want to do science right now.
Absolutely. It makes it so interesting because all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I like have to dig further. And the book lets you dig so far, and then we get to a duel in a moment that like kind of distracts us from the dig.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't really dig further because they can't break the rocks at all.
Right, which is a whole separate thing that we'll get to when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I also do want to mention, you mentioned the wine earlier, of which we both owe a drink for because they're drinking this very expensive wine, which I was drinking a glass of at the beginning of the episode. God, it does still work.
I'm gonna need to find a way to make it just not be needed because we're never gonna get through an episode. Just send me a new camera.
Mention it. We'll just need to get you a new camera. That's fine. But I love that the fact that in the middle of the rest of this conversation, Valka is impressed by the wine, and I like the idea that Hadrian like kind of had to work for it in a way where this is like not something that he could easily attain, even though like Dorian gave it to him. Like there's something extra that he's committing to this relationship and the fact of like this thievery and everything else that's going on.
The idea that like he had to say like, oh, it's for a lady, which means like there was that question like, oh, who's it for? Like, why do you need this? And then
this is for my sister.
And it's for a lady. And he's like, okay, well, I'll definitely get this for you. Knowing what we know, they know that Hadrian doesn't know.
I don't know that Dorian knows. Do you think that Dorian knows?
I could be way off based on what we might learn here.
Sure.
But oh man, what's their father's name?
Mataro?
Yes.
Yeah.
Balin
Mataro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Balin. Yeah.
Whenever Hadrian asks later if Aeneas, right, knows about the situation, Balin's like, do you think me a monster? And there's just a few other things I see from Balin where I don't think he's the type. He's far, far, far from like what Hadrian's dad is like, you know?
Sure.
I don't think, and I could be so wrong here, I kind of don't think he would supplant his son's presumed lordship without telling him.
Ooh.
I kind of feel like he might be the kind of person to be like, hey, we have an opportunity at these genomes. So whichever one of you he wants to marry.
When it's locked in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Dorian knows at this point, right? Like, he's not 100% certain. Yeah.
That's fair.
I think Dorian's still assuming that he's kind of the lord.
Yeah, for all I know, the last chapters of this book is Dorian finding out that he's getting supplanted because of Hadrian, and then he goes out and murders Hadrian. Like, I don't know what the next...
Right, Hadrian has died, and then the rest of the books happen. For sure.
Well, there's a line. There's a line in here that makes me think maybe Hadrian does die at some point, and then it comes back. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll talk about that at a certain later point, I think, when the line pops up. I hope that you remember where that is, because I'm not going to call it out specifically.
It's the not I do remember. It's the one right before the duel.
Okay. I think I probably called it out then.
Yeah.
But all this said, this does back Hadrian into a little bit of a mental corner here as he's talking with Valka. Clearly, the Chantry has to know this. They have to understand this deeply, because otherwise, like, why would they continue research? How would it be allowed, etc.? They have to, as it seems as though mankind, having believed itself first, itself wasn't. And I love this quote that he gives here. I felt myself, my world, shrink in that moment. I became smaller than an atom, crushed beneath the weight of all that space and time. Mankind shrank with me. All its proud kings and emperors, all its warriors, its great poets and artists, its farmers and sailors, its great accomplishments, its great atrocities, all vanished into the context this conclusion provided. And that is so Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan coded that I can't help but like call that out. It's not directly, it's nowhere near like what Carl Sagan wrote, but it feels like an inverse in some ways, in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Talking about humanity as opposed to space.
Yeah.
And humanity's place in it, which is interesting.
the shrinking aspect definitely like is very evocative.
But also there's like co-lines, you know, like all the emperors and lords of the world are just on this pale blue dot. This feels like a zoom out, you know, like
which there's kind of like a theme throughout these in a lot of ways where with the kings and the emperors, he brings up emperors a few times in the section, and I don't think it's accidental to like sprinkle them throughout it in the sense of scale, because it's always to do with scale.
Yeah,
emperors, mythology, where we believe we are in the universe, where we actually are,
right?
How that spans. But yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about Carl Sagan to really speak on it.
Have you not
I know
read the
Pale Blue Dot as like the famous photograph of Earth from the 90s, but yeah.
Wait, you've never heard Pale Blue Dot before?
No, I mean, I've heard of it, but I haven't like.
You've never heard the speech?
No.
All right, so we succeeded in taking that picture from deep space, and if you look at it, you see a dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who has ever lived out their lives. The aggregate of all of our joys and sufferings, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and in triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of the dot on scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner of the dot. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds, our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there's no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. It is up to us. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling, and I might add, a character-building experience. To my mind, there's perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly, more compassionately with one another, and to preserve and cherish that pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
That's definitely heard excerpts of that, but that's a
brilliant speech. Like, it's a brilliant
speech.
Paragraph. Like,
I think probably whenever a lot of people would have heard that speech in school, I was doing Christian school, and they wouldn't let you hear that one.
Yeah,
they'd be like, "Space, that's where the devil is."
You know, but to give credit where it's due, because for the first time that I heard it personally, it was from the Story of the Year album, the band, and there is an interlude in which they actually cut in that part of the speech,
so sick.
And I was like, oh my god, like, what is this in the middle of the Black Swan record? And then I looked it up and I found it from there out of everything else.
That's so cool. Yeah,
it was to talk about how small we were in an economic collapse, which is what the rest of the record's about.
Interesting. Yeah, so sick.
Yeah.
Hey, with that said, I do kind of feel like this section with Hadrian kind of coming to terms with the Chantry, or I've started not with the Chantry, with the Quiet, and this possibility of how far before them the Quiet existed and how expansive the universe really is. It kind of gives Carl Sagan vibes.
Oh, for sure. Did you not? Hang on. It's so cool that you actually brought that up.
Yeah, it's very Pale Blue Dot if you think about it. But it's kind of different in the way how Pale Blue Dot's kind of zooming closer into Earth there, and imagining kind of like how seeing it in this perspective as you zoom back in, kind of like how
it's an inverse in a weird way.
Yeah, ridiculous it is that all of that kind of happens on this Pale Blue Dot, where this is like it's slipping away from you. The Pale Blue
It's like a macro lens versus a micro lens.
Yeah,
very interesting.
So glad
what a great insight.
You're welcome. But yes, it is so Carl Sagan. You're so right. That's so sick.
I'm glad also that you recognize that well in post. And again, for anyone who hasn't heard Pale Blue Dot, I'm sure that was like a great experience because like, oh my God, there are so few pieces of like both like philosophical and modern like science writing that feel as though they're also simultaneously philosophy in such a profound way. You know,
definitely.
like that's crazy. It's reality painting.
If you're listening to this and you also hadn't heard the entirety speech, Carl Sagan, Pale Blue Dot, you're welcome.
Hell yeah!
There's a lot of important writing I haven't heard, so I'm sure
of course,
you'll get a lot of it
most people haven't. You know,
I'm sure I'll give you so many opportunities to, along with me, hear some cool stuff.
I love that for both of us. So to round out the chapter, finally, the Quiet themselves. They can't find anything on them naturally as they've researched them over time, leading them to feel poorly about them as they have no details, no culture, ships, religion, nothing left behind. Carvings that are unreadable are all that they have, and so Hadrian draws upon an old Earth story of the Rosetta Stone. This leads to why the Solan Empire have kept the secret, because the heresy is their greatest offense that they keep among everything else that the Chantry controls. There's also a nice quote here that kind of rounds this out, which is, "Truth is treason," and all that, which is sort of an adjustment of a George Orwell quote, which is, "Truth is treason in an empire of lies," which is so close to the title of this book, in an empire of silence.
Interesting. Yeah, two thoughts on this. One, at some point in this chapter, I'm pretty sure it's in this chapter. Yeah it is, because they're talking about vocalization of different Xenobites. But they mention a race on a different planet that are gray giants with faces that are just big holes instead of faces, that their lungs work like billows. That's the most FromSoft, Dark Souls, Elden Ring shit I've ever heard. I want to see more of that. We don't need to dwell on that. I just wanted to call it out. So
Rockio loves Dark Souls in FromSoft, so that tracks.
Yeah. I was like, that is some fucking like boss fight shit.
For sure.
But also, it had me thinking about the Chantry and like the because Hadrian, in my opinion's like conclusion here that the Chantry simply has to know, you know, it brings in, like, to me, I start thinking about the logistics of it. Yeah. So if the Chantry as a whole knows, is it a few select, you know, top Chantry that know, but the rest of the Chantry is in the dark? Does Gilliam know? You know, like, is this something that is like widespread knowledge amongst the Chantry, kept secret from the people, or a need to know basis amongst the leadership of the Chantry? Is there like one guy in the Chantry that knows all this?
Go? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just I went on a little like spiral. While Hadrian was like losing the Pale Blue Dot, I was like doing my own little Da Vinci Code over here. But it's
yeah.
So, yeah,
definitely love that. It leads to a lot of interesting questions about like this universe and like what it means and what it is, you know, and we're here asking those questions. So we'll see how they resolve. Maybe.
Maybe. I think we need to know how much the Chantry knows, who in the Chantry knows, what the Quiet is. I also think we might need to find out if there's such a thing as witches and or demons.
Oh, sweet. That's the title of the next chapter. How sweet of you to introduce that way. Valka and Hadrian follow a procession of Lord Mataro, the Vasses, and additional dignitaries through the Fisher Halls, as we'd seen earlier in the novel. As Valka comments on the people of the Solan Empire, Hadrian wrestles with Valka, speaking about the truth of him as a nobleman, and says, "Something twisted in me at those words. Was it not a species of the same argument used by the Chantry to dismiss the Cielsen as devils, or by my father to dismiss his plebeians? By myself to dismiss Gillingham? These latter two were lost on me at the time, but their seeds were there, stirring that I might one day see. For the moment I saw only Valka, that Valka herself was blinkered, she could not see me." This is sort of like a more, like in-depth comparison as to like you judge people by their actions, not what they do, as like we reflect on this further. But it's an interesting thing nonetheless that like Hadrian recognizes in the moment this and then sees it for what it is at the end of his life, which is a very different thing.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's not crazy.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm mad distracted by the text to audiobook differences.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in a moment. Yeah.
And I'm also mad distracted by the fact that this chapter has a scene that I forgot about on each read through. I think I blocked out on each read through,
which is
I don't care for at all. No, it's in the it's a little later in the chapter. There's just a moment that I don't care for at all. It's good writing. I wish I didn't have to read it 3 times.
No. Tell me what it is.
It's during the Umand uprising.
Which bit?
I have never been as uncomfortable in a fight scene as an alien tongue going down someone's throat.
Yeah. Okay, all right, fair. Yep.
I don't like it. I don't like it. It makes me think of the scene in Pirates of the Caribbean 2, whenever or maybe it's like 3. Strangled. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's 2.
Whenever his tentacles,
beard tentacles
go down someone's throat and out his nose and like out his eyes and shit, which I also forgot was in there until I rewatched him recently, and I was like, I don't like it. And I realized anything that has to do with like killing somebody by shoving tentacles down their throat is not for me.
You just cannot do by any stretch.
It just can't
Super
fucking do
fair,
it.
Very
and then
reasonable.
to come to the conclusion also, I think right after that those aren't tentacles, they're tongues, made it worse.
Yeah, as he's coming to realize it as he bites into them, and he's like, "Oh God, all of these taste. This is bad."
Yeah, and look, I love a good lengua taco as much as the next person, but they gotta be roasted.
Do you not like a raw lengua in my mouth?
I've never had raw lengua.
outside of my wife's.
Try anything once. Twice to be sure, but no. Did you say outside of my wife's?
It was for you. It was meant to. But yes, that's what I said.
Hey, I've had one, you've had them all, So.
I like that it took you 2 minutes to get back to it, but
I heard it and I was like, certainly not. No, yeah. So I guess if my wife ever stuck her tongue so far down my throat I passed out and almost died, I also wouldn't like it. Okay.
No one would like that. Outside of some freaks, but that's cool.
If you're listening to this and you're really into
you're one of those freaks, I hope you passed out.
You're really into intraesophageal tongue asphyxiation, then good on you. I hope you find the 3 people in the world with tongues long enough to do that. Gene Simmons is really old.
No, he's old and retired at this point. He's not into that anymore. He just barely does a just like
that's all he's got.
It's like a little like it just hits the soul patch at best,
Not the soul patch.
Not the soul patch.
Anyways, this first part of the chapter has nothing to do with that, but just as soon as you were talking about the fishery, all I could think of is tongue.
I will say every time I read it, I was like, wait, Rockio really committed to like this going like all the way in there,
all the way in there until like Valk had to rip it back out of his throat like that
man's breathing tube is permanently stretched. That man
endoscopy style. Yeah.
He sounds different for the rest of his life. Can you imagine your vocal cords are ripped?
Imagine
he dropped 4
the
octaves.
Narrator just switches his narration of Adrian at that point.
Right.
So he's like, but you can't. After that, he's like,
but you can't. I'm so sorry. They call me Adrian. They call me Adrian, the Sun Eater, half mortal. They call me Demon Tongue. They say ice runs in my vein. When I get mad, I get icy cold, not hot like my brother Quispin.
Oh no. Okay, all right. To get us back on the rails, to talk about something else that we wanted to talk about within this chapter. There are some interesting things that I feel like this is one of the first sections that I feel like it's relevant to bring up some text updates. And I'm not planning on doing this throughout the rest of the series. For the most part, I think only the first book has actually been updated in quotes. So I think that this is maybe the only time that it makes sense. But it caught me particularly this time because I listened and then I read and then I listened because I had enough time to do so. And there's some pretty significant changes. So I'm going to read some text. Do you want to do the first one? I'll read the second one, maybe?
Yeah.
Switch it that way? Okay.
Actually, the second one is the audiobook, or?
Second one is the audiobook.
Since I'm familiar with that one, let me read
Sure.
that
I'll read
one.
the other one instead.
Otherwise, you're gonna get me in public school through the icons worship. No, I'm pretty good at reading.
Fair enough. Though the icons worshipped and offered sacrifice in the chantry are only statues, there are deep powers in our universe that know us, watch us, and hear our prayers. As a boy, I considered myself agnostic, but I am wiser now. You see, our meanest serf will never see the Emperor. His radiance may not even grace their world with his presence. Still, Caesar's impact is felt. His laws form the foundation and the framework of that serf's entire universe, and so shape him day by day. They shape his world, though he little knows it, and so hardly recognizes the Emperor's hand in the structure of his life. In the safety he enjoys, in the works built by the imperial hands, in the ability of trade to pass between worlds, that hand is always there. It is a mistake to believe a man must know a thing to be influenced by it. It is a mistake to believe that thing must even be real. How many of us are moved by dreams, hopes, aspirations? The universe simply is, and we are in it, part of it, and by whatever strange forces move us through our lives, through space and time, God or devil, principality or power, our tour of the fisheries brought us to the same warehouse. Compared to.
Yeah, but the audiobook is so different because in the audiobook
so wildly different. It's been the first part is twice as long, to put it out there.
Absolutely wild. I don't think I've ever seen an audiobook be this different than the text. So in the audiobook, you get it's been 1 week since you looked at me, cocked your head to the side and said, I'm angry.
I'm angry. 5 days since you
laughed at
tackled me. It's tackled me, but that's cool.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe those different versions there, too.
There are little different versions. I love 1 week. Anyway.
Perhaps the Chantry's icona are real. Perhaps those spirits hear our prayers. Perhaps not. I've always considered myself agnostic. But you see, to a peasant, a serf who has never seen the emperor, to him, our emperor and those gods are the same. His radiance, laws still affect the provincial, even where there is no emperor at all. It's a mistake to believe we must know a thing to be influenced by it. It's a mistake to believe the thing must even be real. The universe is, and we are in it. And by whatever strange forces move us through time, God or otherwise, our tour of the fisheries brought us to the same warehouse where I'd first seen the Umont.
That's wildly different. Like there's small subtle changes there that like make it more penetrable in a lot of ways, where it's like it's easier to understand, but simultaneously I think obfuscate details.
So which is first and which is the update?
So the update is what I read. You read the original.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Very good. Almost the tones almost come across with like a different it almost changes the feeling of what's being said here.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which do you like more?
I think I like the original more, actually. I think that it is, while it obfuscates so much and it is like, again, difficult to kind of penetrate the ideas that are there, I do think that I prefer the idea that it's playing more clearly into a long-term view, that I kind of like the idea that like you're questioning a little bit more, versus I do think that the other one paints a clearer picture more obviously, but like that's a lens that we'll take as we get further into the story to some degree. Like there are like different elements here that I think are at play. But I think I entirely prefer the original here. I was talking with my dad earlier, of whom read the original text entirely and has not read the other text. We were talking about the original book, and I was like, this is the first time that I'm reading the revised text versus the original that I'd listened to. And he was like, man, that first book is so interesting, but it does feel like he's playing with a secondary language for so much of this, like as though he's like interpreting it through the secondary language. But then as we get into the later books, he instead uses secondary language as like a utility to offload the difficulty of like language that he kind of wanted to like levy into the conversation, and then simplifies the general English a little bit. And so like there's a different balance that he struck between the two versions. I think that's what he's striked. And I think that's kind of what he's aiming for here in the text adjustments, is to make it more approachable.
Yeah, I could see that
without changing the message too much.
I also know that this is probably just a classic. I wrote a thing and then I wrote more of the series and then I went back and I was like, I want to update this. But
the meaning changes a little bit here too.
For a story so steeped in religious conspiracy, how wild is it to have multiple translations of one text?
Well, and that's
like it feels on purpose.
I think that it is on purpose, and I think that it's also like not a bad thing. Also, there is technically, I believe, a third version of this text. So there are 3 different versions that have been edited of this first book, and with different introductions, like I've mentioned before.
Man, I'm imagining like a book that's like Clue in theaters, you know, like, but really subtle, like changed in subtle ways that a lot of people wouldn't notice. But like, imagine if you released one book series, but they all, through very subtle little changes throughout, made you feel completely different ways about characters, and then just watch people argue online without figuring it out. You know,
but also like that's kind of like both what Tolkien was going for and what Rocchio was kind of going through the interpretation lens, where it's like maybe someone interprets like the Red Book of Westmarch differently, and like they take it in a different direction, although no one has the original text to translate because Tolkien wrote it, so yada yada, like there's nothing there to go on. But like I love the idea that Rocchio accidentally and on purpose has multiple versions of the same book, you know, like in subtle ways. That's kind of a neat flex that like
this
few series could ever pull off.
And it works so well within the context of the story he's telling, too.
Yeah, entirely. Somehow this is genius, and I hate the fact that we're talking about it. You know what I mean?
Like, exactly.
Ah, man, I wrote
any
my
other book. I'd be like, oh, they updated it. That's weird. You know?
The only other book that I can think of that did the same thing and did it as well is The Gunslinger, which is our next book series that we're going to talk about by Stephen King, The Dark Tower. He updated his book from the original 1986.
Oh, it's fine. We don't need to read it. I saw the Matthew McConaughey movie. I've got it.
And I stabbed myself in the throat and died on the podcast.
I actually never saw that movie.
It's better that you didn't. I could tell it was bad. Every possible way. It's a fun time. It's not a good time, as I've mentioned many times before in this podcast.
I'm excited to watch it.
We will watch it when we're done with the show.
From now, when we're done.
Oh yeah. Well, a year and a half. That's more conservative.
A year and a half is when we'll be maybe working our way towards the end of Sun Eater.
No, we should be done by this time next year with Sun Eater, based on my path. Hopefully, I mean, like the final book might be its own fucking beast because 400 fucking thousand words, man. That's like that's the first 2.5 books together. So like, and that's taking
some.
It's gonna take us a while to do the final.
Yeah.
I know, man. When Truth was 500. So yeah. Anyway. So I imagine hopefully next year.
And PJ will be on his 6th read of the whole series by then. So
he'll have his second kid at that point. So
yeah, 6th read, second kid.
First kid's already reading the books, you know, like fully into the first lot, just sharpening knives. You know,
PJ will probably have his own version of Words and Whiskey, which is like Words and Apple Juice with his kids as he makes them read the books he made him read.
Yeah, you go, Brinley. You go. All this to say, I really appreciate these comparisons because also, in addition to like what we just immediately talked about, one of the big differences between the audiobook and the text in this unique circumstance is actually the language changes pretty dramatically in the way that he phrases sentences.
Yeah.
There is a lot of, I don't want to call it like unnecessary preamble, but the way that the clauses are written are very intentionally obfuscating. And as you begin to read the rest of the text, that changed when he went through and rewrote this. There's no more like, and so I approached and like, and with that, I like, there's so many different like pre-clauses that he cleaned out as a part of that change. So
I also noticed like just in this section that's different. There's like, you know, as a boy, I considered myself an agnostic, but I am wiser now, as opposed to, you know, I've always considered myself an agnostic, but you see it just moves on. Whereas we get to see specifically the feeling of an older Hadrian in that updated version. Whereas we don't know if older Hadrian still considers himself an agnostic. If he considered that wise or unwise, you know,
That
you
is
get a definitive
changed. Yeah.
exchange there. Yeah, so
It's a weird point, and this is the first point that I feel like it's really valid to like point out, like a substantial textual difference, if that makes sense.
yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Anyways, do you want to talk about the tentacles going down his throat now
Yeah,
and then
so
finding out their tongues?
he reflects
or-
on Kat and their first time here all those years ago when they were like staring at them, and Engen continues to prattle about the Umon and the
was
Voss's
Kat?
fight with Volka. She died. But but about the and again like fighting with Valka about the Demarchy and suggesting that their culture must be totally wiped out. It becomes clear that Balian doesn't like Gilliam himself, calling him a hobgoblin. There's some fun like quotes that get bantered back and forth. You better luck getting rats to worship cats, talking about like the Chantry trying to make the Demarchy do anything. And then as a rebuttal, the native culture must be wiped out as this sort of like purity cleansing thing from Voss's perspective.
You know, it feels really unrealistic to me to tell me that the Empire
The right wing,
sanctioned
sorry, was
the
that what you're
Empire
saying?
sanctioned religious faction would be cool with genocide. What?
Wow.
When has that ever
Crazy.
happened in history?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Never.
love that it's his first option, though. Well, it's his second option, granted.
He's like,
well, you guys can worship the Chantry, and they say no. And he's like, well, then we're going to kill y'all. You know,
well, then we
like-
need to abduct your children from the parents and indoctrinate them in our
Yeah.
faith.
It's like, wow, you guys really doing the
To me,
thing.
in a lot of ways, that sounds worse than some other things that have happened in history, but like not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just has happened in history.
Of course. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to look further than like Native American history to find that. But
Exactly. Yeah.
you
I mean, let's try and find
mad.
out why so many Irish people are Catholic now. You know, but
Right. True. Yeah. Don't have to look further than that.
But yeah, no, it's it's as far as like work trip outings, I've been in more comfortable ones than this for sure.
Work trip outings as a comparison here is wild.
I mean, is that not
Accurate.
what this is?
Wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then we move into the more interesting part of the fact chapter. The Umon begin a very different tune and begin coming for them as the hulking aliens attack. Their mental dam breaks, literal dam breaks, and they begin their sort of like killing spree or sweeping spree. They only kill a couple of people in the end. It's not that crazy. Hadrian begs for a weapon from other people because he believes they can defend them, and he probably could, but instead is hit, almost strangled, as we mentioned before, choking on a tentacle, knocked unconscious. There's another small interesting change I want to mention here before we talk more about the tentacle down the man's throat, which is, would that I had died there as opposed to what was written, had I died that day, which is just that example of simplifying that complex prose, right? Like, would that I had died there.
I like not the would that I had.
Right.
Because not specific. I mean, just like it does sound better switching it away from that. But anytime that I hear would that I anything, all I can think of is Community with the dean. Would that this hoodie were a time hoodie. And I cannot hear the phrase "would that I something" ever without going, "would that this hoodie were a time hoodie," and it breaks me out of anything that I'm listening to. So.
But that is entirely how so much of this audiobook is narrated. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it is entirely, and that's just the example that I was like talking about earlier, where it's like,
yeah,
this is an example of like language that is unnecessarily verbose.
100%
in service of the idea, but also like not servicing the reader in the way that it need or could.
Yeah, I think it comes
Not that it
across
needs
very
to,
much
but
so
could.
as like you can see Hadrian patting himself on his back with no editor in a dark library room with his vermilion ink, but like it does clean up the prose to take a lot of that out.
I do think that like later books, and this is like a critique that I'm leveling without giving any idea, I think later books could use a little bit more of like these touches from time to time just to kind of infer and like call back to this. Simultaneously, I feel like it was a good call to like call them in this book, as was done in the edit between, versions that we have. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, can we talk about? We already talked about the tentacles, so we don't.
Do you want to talk?
Do you want to talk about
more to talk about that? Yeah.
In this little section? No.
No. I mean, like,
I'm
it's
open to talk about something. I just
it's
don't
a fucking
really have
cool
thoughts.
fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh,
you
okay.
know.
So I about the fight specifically. Yes. Sorry, I was back to like kind of pre-fight. Within the fight, I do want to talk about even like how it starts.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that like they come to the conclusion, or at least the hypothesis, that the reason the Human attacked is because they heard that Balian was like the Lord of the world.
Right. Lord.
And it seems like they maybe have a stronger grasp of the language and decided to attack the head of their oppressors, you know. But I do think it's interesting to note that they heard that and did not go immediately into frenzy mode. They heard that and continued working until they were beaten in the presence of the Lord of the World, and then they went into frenzy mode. And I don't know. It's like it's an interesting thing trying to get within the head of an alien species, but it seems like it's not necessarily that they were waiting for an opportunity to take out the leader for an uprising, but rather that whenever they were harmed and they could feel that collectively through their harmonizing song, and they had an opponent in front of them who could actually change it, that's whenever they decided to attack. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just my thought while I was listening to it is kind of the order of operations of how that it all happened was interesting to me.
I mean, especially from the perspective of like an alien species that could be like can communicate in such a way and like might have developed like a different language, and then all of a sudden they're beginning to understand and translate, which is why it's like, oh, they haven't rebelled in 1,000 years. Well, it's because they had to figure out how to fucking translate. It was important, and then they had to strike when the opportunity was like ripe. Like this is a species existing on its own up until the point, you know.
Yeah. Also, with that, oh god, there was something there, a thought that was within my brain.
Welcome
that
to
is
half my tragedy of this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I like this fight. I like that Hadrian gets fucking
go back,
tongued.
He said, then shrank into the shadow, leaving only the green light that turned to glass, to starlight, to darkness, and no more. No more. Light. There was light, as Hadrian nearly dies. Before he wakes back up, grabs Volca and runs away from the singular Human, grappling with other guards. He subdues it, and then a guard guns it down in the moment.
That scene with Gibson showing up, it gives me very Fellowship of the Rings when Frodo's slipping into the Shadow Realm.
Cool
and then
back!
You just, and then you just see like Elrond's face floating above, and he's like, and
you're like, I don't know any of those words, but sick. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. Like, I also,
Very similar.
Gibson's hanging out in the afterlife, and then Adrian shows up, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I'm busy. Come back later." But it is a good scene. I like it. I don't like why we got there, or how we got there, or the description of how we got there, or the description of what happens immediately after it. I will say, up until the point that they Davy Jones Hadrian, I was rooting for the Human.
And then when Davy Jones shoves the tentacle down, you're like, okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe
none of this tentacle
maybe
bullshit.
we should enslave this race. I don't know.
Oh no. Yeah. These tentacle guys, fuck tentacle. Nobody wants it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was all for these guys when they were just some happy little three-legged elephants, but then like the second they became hentai, I get them out. I don't want it.
Right, like the number that Pokemon's number 72 tentacle showed up, like, fuck that. We're done. We're done here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Water poison, you're poisoning my story. Get out. Yeah. And not in a good way. So with that, Gillian Voss throws a bit of a shit fit as we count down the 3 dead on the inside, including Engin, of whom we both disliked actively, like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Have the corpses of the Human cut up to be thrown into the sea. The Chanters, of course, blame the Tavarosi witch, as we'd mentioned before. But Volca points out that it was more than likely that they knew he was a count, like we had mentioned. Gillen continues his line of harassment, calls her an off-world whore, and Hadrian We practically don't even see and or read it in the moment, but he hits him back finally, and Hadrian demands a duel, revealing finally that he's a Palatine. I told you, your revenants, you don't know everything, which is a callback from last week.
A hard fucking line for sure. I do have one more thing to talk about during the fight, and I want to find the exact line if I can. Oh, just back a little bit. Yep, right here. All right.
Man's looking through the physical book.
I know. You gave me a login to a thing too, but I have it.
I did. But I'm glad you have the book, and I'm glad you enjoyed flipping through it. It's for you.
Okay. There is a moment within this fight that is just barely controlled to not just straight up be like an MCU level gag or even like a Disney movie gag.
Right.
But not in a bad way. I like it. So basically, stupidly, I dove sideways, rolling as I hit the ground on the far side of a row of open fish containers and slamming into the next. The Uman crashed into the boxes, stumbling over them in its blindness. I scrambled to my feet, seizing a pair of frozen carp. Numb, I threw them at the staggered creature. As I backed away and sought some sort of weapon, maybe one of the duelers had left a shock stick lying around, or some injudicious dock worker had abandoned a pry bar for the refrigerating crates. Or maybe there's an Imperial Legion waiting in ambush buried under all the fish. I love that line, but also it's such a funny line because it's like a little like just moment of like, hey, why am I digging through these fish? But I can't help the fact that it's not just that he grabs a carp and throws it at, he grabs two, and I just can't help but picture him like dual wielding carps, like,
absolutely.
Full like nunchuck
fish.
Carp moment while he's facing off with a Sumand, and it's very funny. It's the more times I read it, the funnier it got. And then he starts digging through the fish, and then halfway through is like, what the fuck am I looking for in this box of fish?
It's an underrated moment because it is definitely much more comedic than it's played off for, like, and especially like, oh, maybe there's like a legion of soldiers under here. Like, that's such a funny, like, it's such a casually funny joke, but as you're like reading through it, everything else is so serious so fast, and it's like easy to miss.
I'm still thinking about the tentacle stuff. Yeah.
It's easy to miss amidst the rest of it, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so but then he punches Gillian Vass.
Yeah.
And thank God. I mean, I know it's a bad idea and it was a bad call, but like someone had to do it, and Valka wasn't gonna do it, and Balin wasn't gonna do it. If he didn't do it, I was about to,
you were kind of feeling that last week. You're like, man, somebody's got to put this fucking guy in his place, like.
And I get that it's a bad call. This is gonna be bad for Hadrian, but
also it's not so bad.
I don't care for Hadrian's well-being as much as I just want someone to fucking punch Gillian Vass,
Right.
So
entirely
worth it. Whatever happens from here on out, as long as, I guess whatever happens from here on out, short of like enslaving a people or like a genocide or like
blowing up a star and then like killing everyone around.
Well, like he wouldn't do that. He's just punched a guy.
Our boy wouldn't dare.
Our boy wouldn't do that. Yeah, no. I like that he punched him. Made me feel good. I went, audibly in the car.
Fucking got him. Fucking got him. I got a text message when he hit him, for the record, for listeners.
And specifically, I really like that last line. Yeah. You don't know. I told you, you don't know everything.
Yeah. Which is what he said at the end of the last week, which is part of the reason that I was like, between.
He's like, hey, you don't know everything. Yeah. And then it kind of left at that. And just to, just break the necklace chain and be like, hey, bitch, I told you, you don't know everything. Yeah. Like,
yeah. I am Palatine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. All right. With that, we can get into second here, which is maybe my favorite chapter of the week subtly. Like, this is such, in my opinion, I think this is one of the best written chapters of the week for sure. Because it's a return to Switch. It's a return to a character that we know and love and appreciate.
It's interesting. I love this chapter. I'm inclined to agree with you, but my favorite chapter of the week is Barbarians, the next one.
Which is also a very good chapter. Don't get me wrong. I just love this because it feels like so wholesome in a way that like not a lot of the whole rest of the book is like, outside of last week's chapter with Polino, like this is
Yeah.
one of those.
Oh, it feels so
and
nice.
so it's just it feels like home, but also it feels like Hadrian confronting something that he's unwilling to. So it feels very different. And I love that. So we see him sitting there, and they the two of them have an hour to make up together, and finally there is this duel that he asks Switch, his man, to be like the second to. And it's just such a great time between the two as Hadrian pours out most of his heart for his old friend, skipping over some of the details in between. He gives so much of his past and like what happened to him on this planet, Borosevo, and everything else. He says, some things remain unspoken, and I record them here now only in their proper time. Which is to give them the weight that they deserve in the end of history, not so much as like you might skip over things with your friends as you're talking to them in the moment.
Yeah. Man, a lot to love in this chapter. It does. There's a piece of this chapter specifically that stands out to me that harkens back up to Gaslight, where we started. And something we were just actively riffing on and joking about. And I was having the thought while we were joking about it, and I was like, I'm going to save it. I'm going to talk about it once we get here. But there's a line in this chapter where they're kind of arguing about, or not arguing, but Hadrian's like, hey, you have to understand those Palatines. I'm not them. You know, whoever did whatever happened to you, that's not me. And Switch says, like, I know that, but you got to understand that you people, you don't see us. You never see us. We're part of the furniture to you.
Right.
Which I think is a great line. I also, in that moment, he mentions like the body language. Switch isn't angry. His head is down and he's bracing to be hit. You know, which it's like this kind of, in a very pleasant chapter, in a very nice chapter, kind of a dark look into the life that Switch has led. But it does make me think about the fact that, like, the fact that conks, if you will, are kind of just furniture was played as a relief in a way back up
earlier
in Gaslight. Whenever he comes to the door and Valka's Midnight Lover Boy is leaving, there's kind
pillow
of
in front of his dick.
Yeah,
you know, like walking
his heart
out.
sinks, but like there's almost a relief whenever she's like, oh, that, like, that's just, you know, that's just my 7 p.m. dick appointment, you know. And there is almost a sense both to Hadrian and to us as the reader. It's like, no, it's okay. It's like, it's not a real person. And then we get here and you're immediately faced with Hadrian having to like have this very human conversation with somebody who was treated like that, and then be faced with kind of how that comes across. I don't know. To me, the parallels of those two things are interesting. I don't know that they really go anywhere necessarily in this moment, but like I just but it's
a real comparison. I mean, especially like given their different reactions at different times, even comparing back all the way to Kyra, right? Like there's like an interesting conversation to be had here through this book about sexual exploitation from a class level and from like a class basis, and Switch is sort of like a layer upon which we get to view this from like the most human level. Simultaneously, while we found it funny during the other section, it's much more both humanizing and dehumanizing in the way that's presented via Switch.
Like, yeah, exactly. That that man that leaves the broom in Gaslight in a very slightly different world could have been Switch.
Absolutely.
You know, and Hadrian wouldn't have spared a thought for him.
Right.
Besides the fact that he was mad that he was sleeping with Valka.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where, like, I was kind of mentioning whenever Hadrian's like, I've suffered, I deserved a dream. And I'm like, you still don't really fully seem to grasp that this is your suffering years so you can grow as a character. But this is a lot of people's lives. Like, and this is kind of one of those moments where it's like with Switch, his friend, he understands that there must have been this incredibly traumatic experience being sold into this line of work and being owned and being a part of the furniture. But with somebody else in the moment, whenever it's somebody he cares about on the other end of that, it's easier for him to be like, well, that person's just furniture, so it's okay.
And that's a Hadrian problem and a class problem, right? Like
Yeah.
by and large. And he's like, man, I care for that individual of whom is and has been mistreated by society, but simultaneously, like, he doesn't have the wider lens at this point to understand the implications so much. But he did, or briefly, he flirted with the idea of believing that he understood it as he was reflecting in this, like, his mother's pleasure palace variously. So,
Which, and barbarians will get into a conversation about that, so it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do really like this chapter. I also just like, and I've already asked twice, remind me, Samuel
Rukin.
It bugs me that Rukin and Rakio are so similar because I get confused.
Not quite
Samuel
the same,
Rukin,
but close.
I like his Switch voice a lot.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
So to begin to round out the section, he asks Switch to be his second. Of course I will, Hade. I wouldn't have made it this far without you. I owe you, the way I see it. And I've never forgotten that. He'd called me Hade, not Hadrian. Used the name of the Myrmidon I'd been, not the Palatine I was. Doesn't mean I'm not mad as hell at you, though. What a like good friend.
Yeah, it's so cute. At this point he calls Switch like the best kind of friend, which is really heartwarming in a scene in a book like this. Also, there's a moment where he reflects where he's like, who is this like Myrmidon in front of me?
Right.
Like, what happened to Switch? Like, I love that we come back sometime later and Switch has now like grown into this like confident, capable, warrior Myrmidon. And but they have that same kind of dynamic. They have that same friendship. I'm sure all of us listening to this can like think about a friend we haven't seen in months or years, and you meet up with them and it's just like no time has passed and you just slip right back into it. It kind of has that warm feeling in this chapter. It's just nice to read.
Yeah, and also there's this other half, which is like he kind of understands him more intimately. It's not just slipping back in, but he's like, I didn't get you beforehand, but now I do understand. I don't like that you didn't tell me, but I'm accepting of you now. And that's, I think, an important clarification.
Very much so.
As to how Switch has grown as well.
Yeah, and Switch just has this like something cooler about Switch now. I don't know how to put it, but like as we move into the back part of this, he was like, how did like you end up in this duel after he asks him to be his second? And he just agrees. He's like, yeah, of course I'll be your second. Which there's some cool world building and how duels work within these two chapters that I like a lot. But I think it's talked maybe a little bit more in the next chapter. But and then he's like, how did you end up in this duel? And Hadrian's like,
right.
He's like, why did you do it? Why did you punch him? And he's like, he's defending a lady. And he's like,
yeah,
sick.
In that instant, all that mattered was that I had my friend back, and we were friends at all. And that's like the reflection at the end of that.
I don't remember the exact response from Switch in that though. Whenever he's like, I was defending a lady, but it basically came down to him just being like, classic.
You fucking would, buddy.
There's like that hell yeah. And then he goes in and he I like that he whenever he's like, so what is your real name? And he's like, Hadrian Marlowe. And he's like, sounds right, proper. And he's like, it is proper. And he's like, sure Hade. So. Sure Hade.
Yeah. And that's such so like a good moment to leave the chapter on, you know what I mean? When it's like, all right, Hade. And he skips over the whole formality of it all.
It's so friendly. It's so refreshing. It's so, brothers in arms, but also there's a piece of it that's like kind of like healing in a way for Switch, where like this is a Palatine who he can just call Hade and bust his balls a little, and this is a plebeian, slave person that Hadrian is in these moments when he's with him, regardless of station or situation. They're just kind of on equal ground. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's beginnings of actual humanity between these two people that Adrian doesn't have a lot of in his
Un
life.
poquito, like
Yeah.
for sure. Like, but also, yes, absolutely. Foundationally, there's something between these people, these humans, as opposed to like the class that exists between them.
Bringing that up, people and humans. There's one line in this chapter that, like, every time I would hear it, my brain went to the same thing, and it's whenever Switch is talking about, like, oh, you guys never see us. It's like we're just furniture. He says, you treat us like we're homunculus, and we're not. We're just as human as you are. And every single time I'm like, if only Switch realized he's actually more human than Adrian.
Right.
Adrian's closer to a homunculus than Switch is.
In every way.
In every way. But that's just something that's always going to be on my mind, because Saltis was right. And I think I'm going to be reading book 7 and be like,
Saltis.
Still thinking about Saltis. I like Saltis. Saltis maybe like framed the entire series for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal of a lot of early characters, right? Like framing what they are, what could be, setting up prophecies in a weird way. So,
yeah.
Well, with that, I think we can round out that chapter. All right, Josh, drink segment time. What have you made?
Ooh, all right. I made a little tizzy called For a Lady Doctor. Call back to the wine being for a lady.
We love that.
But I didn't tell him it's for a doctor.
Yeah.
It's not wine. There's no wine in it. I thought about floating some port, but I was like, that's too much.
Agreed. I considered a couple of different wine-based cocktails because actually I have a decent amount of wine over there, but not right now. Not for this.
So yeah, what we got right here is a nice little coupe with a lemon twist garnish on the side there.
Cute.
We've got 1.5 ounces of grapefruit juice, 1 ounce of Aperol, 1.5 ounces of that Speyside Scotch I've been drinking.
Ooh, nice.
Give it a little smokiness, which I think plays nice with the Aperol. Half ounce of triple sec just to bring some sweetness back and also bring out a little bit more citrus from that grapefruit side of things. However, with that said, there's a final topper because you did mention this is our New Year's episode.
Yeah.
So bear with me because I haven't loosened this shit up at all. But I just got from a work thing.
Jesus
little,
Christ,
citrus,
the man
a little
is
tangerine champagne.
Yo.
So here we go.
Hell yeah.
Oh God, I'm scared. All right. Are we ready?
This is the first time a bottle of champagne's been popped in the podcast. Yeah, we're here.
Can you count down to New Year's?
5, 4, 3, 2. Now? Maybe a second time? Maybe a third now? Maybe a fourth? Now!
Woo! Happy New Year's, everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and top it off with a tangerine
champagne.
Well, I mean, technically it's
a Prosecco.
Yeah. But it's not from
the
Champagne
region of France. It's not from the west of the Rhine. You got to consider the region that you're talking about. But like other than
this shit's from California and it tastes good.
California, yeah, I'm sure. That sounds awesome. Sounds like a great drink.
Yeah, so it's kind of a grapefruit Aperol spritz, but with whiskey instead. And Hibita. It's pretty good.
Good. Sweet. That sounds tasty.
It's very citrusy, but I like citrus.
Yeah. I mean, same. Interesting.
Cool.
Love that idea.
Yeah.
Fun.
As far as beer.
Yeah.
Or do we do our cocktails then beer? I never know the order.
Either
on
way.
these.
Who cares?
I'm drinking a nice little Pizza Port, which is another local San Diego brewery I like quite a lot, and great pizza restaurant. Pizza Port IPA called the Sunset Stroll. I like the can here quite a lot. It's very pretty. It's a little La Jolla Shores right there for you. Yeah, Pizza Port's a great local brewery. It's more of a brewery than a pizza place, but they do have great pizza. And it's a really good, tasty kind of tropical IPA.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Yeah. Sweet. Very cool.
What are you drinking today, Crossland?
Josh, I made a cocktail that I actually feel kind of proud of. It's pretty simple. It's not crazy, but it's not something that I've made strictly before. I'm calling it this.
You both put a little lemon twisty on the edges here.
I did, and I thought that was appropriate considering I had a lot of lemons and a lot of twisting going on in my life recently. This is a salty umand.
Hate it.
The name sucks, but it's It implies tentacle, and I have no tentacle. Otherwise, I would garnish it with a tentacle. But this is a pretty straightforward cocktail. Pretty easy. Very adjacent to a lot of different sours. It is 1.5 ounces of aquavit, which is sort of like, especially the one that I have is like a very dill forward ginny style like thing. So this is very seawatery naturally, which is very good and very much fits with this. I added a 3/4 ounce of gin, which is a little bit more gin. That's because this aquavit in particular is, I think, like 38% or something like that, slightly under 40. So a little bit more gin just to like level out the full profile. 1 ounce lemon, 1 ounce simple twist of lemon on top. This is delightful. I didn't actually expect this to be as good as it was. I was even under the impression that I was going to need to add a little bit of salt to it to get to the point that it was. But man, the Norseman gin that PJ gave me that is still like rocking, or the aquavit, excuse me, that PJ gave me, fucking delightful. Perfect.
Hell yeah. Well, I love that. I'm going to try that. Honestly, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also
drinking the rest of the bottle of the champagne
of the. Yeah. No, I'm not that big on the champagnes, but I just want to make sure I get my picture of this cocktail.
Absolutely. It's
this
very
one's
pretty.
not going to be in
Love
a
the
fancy
coupe.
location. It's just going to be at the desk. But the book's in the background, so that's fun.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for the most part. That's what I did in this one. That said, my back half beer is an unnotable beer that I've had several times on the show from a notable brewery. That's Wilmington Brewing's Galloping Goza. It's nothing too crazy. It's a grapefruit, coriander, salty beer.
Beautiful.
It's tasty.
Yeah. We love a good goza.
Yeah, good gozas are tough to come by. Winding down some of those picks on this show. So,
man, all right. Well, I'm glad you repeated a beer because I was at the corner store and I was like, I'm gonna have to start going to a real beer shop if I don't repeat
sooner than later. You're like, man, I'm gonna have to actually go to one of these breweries.
Otherwise I'm gonna be showing up and be like, I'm having a nice, lovely Mexican style lager called Modelo today.
Dude, I've had Modelo so many times on the show,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, feel free to repeat. No one's worrying, no one's fretting. But you are in a weird place where you're uniquely interesting at this point with the beers and your choices. We've also got some fun shout outs from people, both patrons and otherwise, being like, thank God someone is finally talking about beer on the West Coast, which was like kind of a fun thing. So,
well, I can't disappoint the West Coast beer fans over here,
right.
So I got to keep them coming.
Yeah. It's
I'd also want to point out that whenever I'm like, I'm going to have to go to a real beer shop, there is one an 8-minute walk from me.
But
that has
8 minutes.
everything, like every single local beer you could possibly get. Like one of the I used to, whenever I lived in Fresno, California, and for the not California people, Fresno, California is about a 7-hour drive if traffic is there. Like if there's no traffic, if you're going 100 miles per hour, it's like 5.5 hours between Fresno and San Diego, where I live now. I had driven from Fresno to San Diego to go to this specific bottle shop that I now live walking distance from. But I'm like, but the corner store's right there, like, so,
yikes is all I can say.
That's
cool, though.
But just know that if I ever show up with the Modelo, it's because I wasn't willing to walk 4 more minutes, and call me out on that shit. But also, I like Modelo.
Modelo's great, man. That's like my casual beer of choice, to be honest. Like if I had to,
Yeah, I'm a Miller High Life guy personally, but
well, it's okay to be a little low life. With that said, we'll move into our next chapter, Barbarians.
It's my dead grandpa's favorite beer.
Volca, yeah. Volca is understandably frustrated with Hadrian and his antics, shouts at the fact that he is not responsible for me, as she claims, as he's sort of treating her like some sort of like fairy tale princess in a sort of way. Hadrian blurts out a vague defense about his mother fighting for a woman, 2 women. Well, 2 women and a horse, which is like not like a good defense as he continues to meander his own
not
mind.
at all. Yeah,
but he finally pushes to apologize for his outburst and like what that means for both of them in the political ways that have done.
Yeah, this interesting moment is interesting. God, I've had 1 sip of my cocktail.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
This interesting moment is so interesting, isn't it?
This does not bode well for the back half.
Yeah.
Anyways, very interesting little conversation, which has a very funny line, which is the Valka says that it's so misogynistic what he's doing, and his defense that no, this isn't misogynistic, is my mom fought a duel for a woman once, so that's all ladies, can't be misogynistic. But not just one woman, two women. Well, two women and a horse, which the fact that even whenever you bring in the horse, you're reestablishing the fact that, especially right after this, he recalls his mother's blue homunculi as part of her harem. So you're reestablishing that the women she fought this duel for are specifically furniture. They are no different to her than a horse.
Ooh, man, it hurts. You're so right. But this again is something that I was talking about earlier, which is like the Palatine nature of Hadrian, which finally gets like brought to attention here that we were talking about kind of a little bit earlier, which is like, hey man, everything that you've been saying, like including the lie that he told to Valka previously, is like you were arguing a false reality. Like,
yeah,
what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much so. And I like that she says, like some fairy tale princess, or we have that note here, like some fairy tale princess.
Right. Because that's how it feels. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because literally whenever we were talking about this chapter or this section at the beginning, I was like, man, this whole section kind of boils down to like a single fairy tale story in a lot of ways.
And a Ryak,
but
you know.
If the princess was pissed as hell at the entire situation.
Right.
But,
if the princess was also Bowser, you know.
Yeah. But I just think it's so interesting how we don't dwell on it. It's not like spoon-fed to us, but the parallels that Rakio puts up throughout this section of specifically, and because they don't have like a specific name in the way that like Pinks do in Red Rising, we're gonna call them Conks. Specifically, the life of Conks here in this world amongst Palatines is very heavily reflected in this section. Like almost every chapter has
almost this whole novel, to be honest.
Yeah, but I feel like this section so much just like has so many different facets of how Hadrian himself in the past and even now views these people as people when it suits him,
and also reflects on sex as like a utility or as like an economic mechanism,
very
one way or another.
So.
You know,
yeah. So, I will say it's simultaneously one of the more like this chapter makes you realize kind of how dehumanizing the activity of this whole thing is, because it's no longer about connection and there's tiers of humanity. But at the same time, it's also one of the less gross approaches to this that you might see in a dystopian novel or in a sci-fi novel. I guess it's very like it's been worse. I would rather be a Sun Eater Conk than a Pink in the Red Rising universe, you know? But,
true, for sure. Not even close. Not even close.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that just this line right here solidifies again the fact that Hadrian and all like the Palatines for sure, and Hadrian's doing better, but Hadrian still views the profession and the people within it as furniture whenever he doesn't specifically know them on a personal level.
A little bit, like for sure, like he views them slightly, or maybe he doesn't view them. He understands
He's trying
their plight
to be
better. He understands the plight, but he doesn't excuse the choice, which is like a different problem.
It's like if I found out that chairs were mad all the time, that doesn't mean I'd never sit again. You know, like,
I might though. I don't know. Yeah, couches are pretty nice though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do? Lay in my bed? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what if all
then my bed's gonna be
chairs,
mad?
Yeah. What if everybody's mad and you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna do my best to treat my bed nicely, but I still have to sleep. And other people like sleep on the floor, and I'm like, no, that's kind of what's going on here.
It's the floor that's arguing with you.
Yeah. And in Hadrian's defense, Hadrian has never that we've seen partaken in that side of Palatine privilege, but that doesn't change the fact that
doesn't change reality.
I think that his if he stops and thinks about things, view of the world is very different than his knee-jerk reaction thoughts of the world. And this is just one of those things where it's yes, Hadrian in his brain is more developed than Hadrian in his deep soul right now, which still goes, no, my mommy fought duel for 2 horses and a horse, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so,
Exactly.
which I do think was the scrapped 2.5 Men sequel, but
2 women
you
and
know.
a horse.
I said 2 horses and a horse, but yeah.
Oh, 2 horse and a horse. Yeah, that's actually way better as far as the title goes.
Phonetically, for sure.
Yeah, right. Like second in Lions, fuck that.
Yeah. Anyways.
We discover that Switch. I'm so sorry.
I was gonna transition it, and I was like,
Yeah,
I don't even know.
tried so
I
hard.
don't even know
Yeah,
anymore.
here I am. We just do discover as a part of this that Switch's first name is William, which is interesting. But Hadrian, despite Valka's urging, is unable to drop the challenge as we approach kind of the duel itself, leading Hadrian to reflect on the nature of a duel versus the way societies go to just being murder in the end, one way or another, versus something like a little bit more like regulated in a weird way. I find this kind of sort of strange. Valka, of course, at the end storms off, and Switch urges Hadrian to go after her, which we'll talk about in a moment here. But how do you feel about the idea of like duels being like an interesting, like regulated way of like doing murder?
It's written in such a weird way because I personally think
That we should
that
always be doing
Hadrian
duels.
makes a
Sorry.
pretty good point for him in this section, and then immediately undercuts his own point within the same
True.
section.
Yep.
It is, just because we mentioned it earlier in the show, it's kind of like if Tyler Durden is talking about like the pointlessness and mindlessness of late stage capitalism, but then if you take a second to look at the movie, you're like, oh, not that guy though. You know?
But wait, actually, it's both a commentary and an actualization of it in some ways.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're like, you know, like the idea that you're setting up, you make some good points, and I get where you're coming from.
Wait, Brad
but then
Pitt
you're
became
immediately
the
shown that he
idol
doesn't actually
of-
believe in them, and that it's like self-serving in the moment, and that
Right.
if he really did believe that the right way to deal with the world is to take a duel to make a person like Gilliam Vast no longer able to oppress the people that he would, then he wouldn't be angling for first blood to make Valka not mad at him.
That is so excellently put. For people that don't understand, I just want to like simplify this maybe a little bit. Like, imagine the complexity of the question as posed by the Matrix of red pill, blue pilled, being what it was originally versus what it is now. And that's sort of the same kind of comparison, right? Where it's like there was a much more complex conversation going on in the movie itself as far as like the way that we might interpret those decisions versus now it's like, oh, either you're red pilled or you're blue pilled. And I kind of feel like this gets boiled down in many ways to the same sort of binary decision when there's so much more going on here. So I love that Hadrian has more agency, obviously.
But yeah, I do like, there's a part of it where like I think that Switch has a better grasp on
for sure. Yeah.
And what's good or bad about them than Hadrian does. Because Hadrian's kind of trying to justify an entire society he doesn't like anyways.
Yeah.
In this moment. It's like,
for this entire book.
yeah, like I know as somebody who like was raised very religious and was super dove into it, that like I have so many critiques and stuff, but then if somebody just like says something in the wrong way, I'm like, but my mommy likes it, you know, and I'll like get mad at you.
That's what he was told. C.S. Lewis said. Yeah,
exactly. No, but it's like, yeah, like if you're like, hey, this is my belief, I'm like, yeah, let's dive into that. But if someone's like, anybody who's a Christian's a fucking idiot and we should burn him at the stake, I'm like, well, hold on, that's my mommy you're talking about, you know.
Let's take a moment. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's this kind of moment where Hadrian's like defending the society that he really doesn't like because she's like, oh, this is all so barbaric, and he's like, no, it makes sense, you know. And it kind of does and it kind of doesn't, but like Switch gets the feel of it where he's like, hey, it's not necessarily that duels are good, but at least there's rules in the duels that make people rethink dueling.
You had said earlier that this is your favorite chapter. What about it makes it your favorite chapter of the week?
So, and this is specifically because a few reasons. This entire book is very this chapter is the most different from the chapters around it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't necessarily think
way.
that it's like the best or most thought-provoking chapter in this section that we're reading. It is my favorite chapter because it is the best we have seen yet, in my opinion, in the entirety of the book. of a moment of dialogue and character interaction that isn't specifically broken up by the writing device, that lets the scene breathe, that actually lets us feel these characters in a scene where we feel like we're there rather than remembering it.
Sure. Yeah.
And as somebody who, like, I'm enjoying the writing device here, and I like how it's implemented into the story, but at the end of the day, my favorite writing style is like,
let it live.
Yeah, it's third person. What's the word for that specific type of limited third person?
Yeah.
Past tense, but in the story, no like writing device. These aren't letters we found. This isn't a story being told.
It's not first person. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I like Wheel of Time. I like Joe Abercrombie's books. I like that, just classic, like, he did this and we get to live in the moment and hear the conversations without breaking them up as much,
To just give a little bit of credence to this writing style to some degree, like the two most popular sci-fi series I would say, or maybe like top 3, The Expanse, which is third person, Red Rising, and then Sun Eater feel like they're like currently the top 3 in a lot of like modern reading lenses.
Yeah, you would probably put Dune in there. I would assume.
I'm saying like modern
way,
reading lenses, like these are like modern sales and things like that. Like Dune is absolutely
for sure
there, but like Red Rising and Sun Eater are both first person, and like The Expanse isn't. So
it kind of feels like you know how there's like those memes like fantasy is when this, sci-fi is when this. It does kind of feel like in the modern world, I'm waiting for you to sneeze, but I don't know if I should keep talking or not.
God damn it. You should have kept talking because we'll cut away from it on the other side. It's okay.
Gah! Hey, everybody, just so you know, this guy's trying to sneeze right now.
Man, he's trying to get away
so
with it
badly with the 2 cameras.
I was totally going to do it too, and now instead my eyes are stuffy.
No, yeah, so fantasy is when third person limited, sci-fi is when first person past tense.
Josh, is it? Is that how it does?
But the style of book doesn't like bother me or take me out, but in this scene I get to live in the moment a little bit more than in other moments. And these characters feel really fleshed out in this scene, interacting with each other in a way where I don't know if they have up to this point.
I agree. So one of my main critiques of this first novel, which I think we talked a little bit about last week, is like we don't get that much time with characters. Like, and that's part of the reason that I was so pro the scene with Polino, right? Like we finally have someone returning outside of a segment to be like a person that like Hadrian cares about. And this first novel is like replete with a number of interesting characters, but so few make their way back into the story. And so now we finally get a sense of people that are sticking to some degree to Hadrian.
Exactly.
So, that lends itself to what you're saying.
There's a bonus to that of I'm an audiobook listener first and foremost. I'll read along sometimes. I'll check in. I'll like see how something's spelled in the book. I do like going back through and reading a book once like I like have already listened to it all the way through. This is the best scene in the audiobook up to this point to highlight Samuel Rauken, in my opinion.
I definitely love that perspective. I personally think that he does a miraculous job with the Sword of our Order, which we'll talk in a moment, which I think is an otherwise, when you read it, not incredible sword fight scene, but I think that like actually he does such a good job describing that it gives weight to something that I think lacked emphasis to some degree.
I think his descriptions have been very good, and the way how he narrates the novel is very solid.
Right, but the character interaction, the voice acting, right?
Exactly. He doesn't get a chance to highlight himself as a voice actor beyond a narrator.
Yes.
Up until this point. And there are moments, like with Saltus, and I think a big part of why Saltus stands out to me is because he has such an interesting, fun voice that stands out. And it's not that he hasn't gotten a chance to play these other characters and stuff, but usually it's Hadrian and a character. There's not a lot of multiple characters in a scene, and this is probably the first scene for me where a big part of why I love Stephen Pacey reading Joe Abercrombie so much is that you'll listen to a scene, and this isn't a dramatized version, this is just the audiobook, and you won't even think about, and you'll kind of just forget that it's one guy reading this. You'll live with the characters rather than the narrator, and this is maybe the first time in the book where, like, on my second read through, I'm like, damn, that was good. I didn't even think about that being a narrator in my first listen. I was just there with the characters. I can picture the scene better because I'm not thinking about who's telling me the story. I'm in the story.
Totally. Maybe I'm a post Rukin narrator, like listener at this point, because I've listened to so much of it that like this first book, again, to the point of what you're saying, doesn't have that many like moments in which characters are like really building, getting those scenes for the most part. But like in post, my mind is like, he just nails that all the time. And I'm like,
I'm sure he will, but this is his first chance to show off with it, really, in my opinion.
I hadn't even considered that in reflection. So
and I think it's because a lot of times whenever he's in a scene with multiple other characters where he's doing the voice, it'll be multiple other Palatines or multiple other plebeians, or, he doesn't get a scene where he gets to do 3 distinctly different voices, bouncing off of each other, interrupting each other, in a way where you can do a flow of conversation that feels so natural. And that really made me love this scene. But that's not just the voice acting. This scene is actually written like real people interacting, not like a memory of people interacting. And I really, really enjoy that.
I don't want to, and I will not spoil anything for the 7th book, of which I'm listening to right now. I'm in the middle of chapter 28, 29 that I'm going to talk about for just a hot second here. It's not a spoiler. There is a scene that happens around this in which 3 different species interact that Samuel Rukin has to like manage, including their like voice mannerisms and everything else. I'm like, buddy, how did you do that in one recording session? Like, man, that's the kind of thing. And like this comes up sooner than that, but I was like, oh my God, like what
and
a
that
move.
excites me so much. But also like I think that there's been signs throughout this book so far that he is very good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he
but
did.
The book hasn't necessarily,
like he's the narrator.
We're just not necessarily like highlighting how good he is up until this scene. For me, for what I look for in an audiobook narrator, but it makes me very excited to know, like, hey, he's going to take this and run with it in crazy ways. What this told me, though, very much so, like back whenever Hadrian fought Crispin in his first duel at the very beginning of the book, and I said, like, hey, this isn't really an action scene that's that exciting, but what it has told me is that this guy will know how to write action when we get there. It's given me faith that the book I'm writing will do well with action. This is that moment where I'm like, I knew he was a good voice actor because obviously he is, but this gave me faith that he can do some really cool stuff with a lot more character work later in this series.
Cool. I love that as an idea. I do want to kind of wrap up this chapter one way or another, like with a couple of different pieces. No. Love this as a component of the story, and it's especially important because like the way in which we experience the story influences the way that
impacts it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, again, like we were talking about the text earlier and the textual differences, it's important to like interpret the way that like characters are delivered versus like maybe the intention of the delivery. Those things vary. And Samuel Rukin, I think, like mostly nails it. So it's interesting to hear. It's great to like talk about it, on the front end.
But yeah, with that said, even the writing of the section, I think, just gives characters more of a chance to breathe.
Absolutely. We've got more core characters here than we do usually.
Yeah.
So I do want to wrap this up by both talking about like there are a couple of different points in which we get sort of the scholiest reflections on like Rage's blindness. Once again, fear being death to reason. And Valka both acknowledges that and believes that he's right, that this is both his fault and that she's absolutely could have done something and would have handled him herself, meaning Gillian Voss, of course. They reflect on why Hadrian had lied up until this point as an element of their relationship, which of course is to hide from the Chantry, his father, and family. Any notes as to how it goes there?
Yeah. There's a lot of kind of like repetitive info dumping in these like 2 chapters next to each other, or even like in a couple of them. But it's like one person's like, why? And he's like, this is the reason. And then the next person's like, why? And he's like, this is the reason. But so like, I don't know if I have a lot to say necessarily about that, but I do like that it's noted throughout this section that Valka is warming to him in a way that like, even though she's stopped being cold towards him, we start getting like a warm smile, even if it's subtle,
Totally. Yeah. Versus like her like distant in a windowsill sitting there, tattoos, skimpy dress, vibe she had going on.
This definitely gives me one thing that I want to talk about, though, speaking on like Hadrian thinking about like the Gibsonisms,
sure,
if you will. And also, it makes me remember another thing that I forgot to mention. All three of these things that I want to say are from Gaslight. Can I do a quick?
Absolutely. No, yeah,
Okay,
hit it.
cool.
Hit it.
All right. So in Gaslight, Hadrian mentions when he gets slapped that it's like all of the heat went out of the room.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a great callback to Hadrian establishing in his fight with Crispin way back when that his rage is frost. Crispin's is fire and his is ice.
Wow. Crazy. I never thought about that. You're totally right, though.
He goes cold in that moment, and that's whenever he becomes that rage-driven Hadrian Barlow
love
with
that
crooked smirk. The other thing that I forgot to mention is I absolutely fucking love the prose of describing Valka's laugh, and I thought of it because I was talking about how she's starting to warm to him.
Way earlier.
This is one of the moments where he specifically mentions her laugh wasn't timid like the courtesans of Palatine life. Her laugh was raucous. It was like a thunderclap over a storming sea.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the same chapter describes the laugh of Gilliam Vass. And he says his laugh was like the smashing of priceless instruments, which is why I named myself that on this video. And
that no one will understand precisely, but yes. Yeah.
Yes. So on the video app we're using to record this, you can choose your name whenever you log in. And I said, Joshua laughs like smashing of priceless instruments. Ramsey. And I was like, yeah, we'll talk about this in the first chapter. But then I got distracted because we talked about bowling for soup for 20 minutes.
Well, that was in the preamble in the Devil's Cut for people who are looking for extra content. But yeah.
By the way, if you want to become a Patreon subscriber, you can check out those Devil Cuts. We get to talk about all kinds of fun things like pop punk, Mighty Nine, Pluribus.
It was a 20-minute episode.
Crimes we've done, things like that. Anyways, I love that description.
Our love
two laughs. Some of them. I'll add something to it later. I'll tell you something.
No, it's cool. Yeah. It's fine. You don't have to. It's good.
Anyways, basically, I really love that description between the two of them. Mm-hmm. I love how he's seeing Valka in this way where her loud boisterous laugh is beautiful, like a stormy sea, and then this cackling laugh of Vass that is like the smashing of priceless instruments, which tells me there is a musicality to his laugh, but the fact that it exists grates Hadrian. We got to get back to this, but I think that that's important to understand how much I fucking hate Gilliam, and Hadrian hates Gilliam for this next scene.
It absolutely
and the iciness of his rage that is informed within that, because that comes back up.
I love that comparison. I'd never thought about the iciness of his rage coming up, but it is always like frosty. It's cold. Like he is indifferent, and that's
his blood doesn't run hot. When his blood gets up, he goes cold.
Yeah. He's always cold. Love that. Okay. All right. Well, with that,
boy is certifiably shivering.
I feel like we got to move into On the Eve of Execution, which is, again, like another short aside chapter, getting us through the night, a number of incredible lines throughout. I love this in particular. We take comfort in the knowledge that the sun will always rise, that a new day will ever replace the old as the smurg is reborn from the fire. But it is not so. The universe runs ever down, as do we all. And there will come a day, though the sun rises, that we do not. So too will there come a day where the sun does not rise, but goes dark forever.
Oh, man.
And the Simurgh
stuff in this chapter,
for people who don't know, is the Persian version of a phoenix. Like that's the origination point, which again gets us back to like this idea that like imperial ideology is a little bit more Middle Eastern-y to some degree.
Yeah,
like Turkish maybe.
Well, it's Middle Eastern adjacent. To me, it almost reads. There's so much of it that almost feels still kind of Western Christianity based, where
of course
like, I'm not kind of Muslim in a way, like it kind of has this like I don't know. There's definitely a number of religions pulled together here.
Definitely,
there's a lot of Middle Eastern
more
philosophy mixed into it. We also got a lot of like Eastern Asian mysticism earlier in the book. There's a lot. I think they just really like old Earth.
Without a doubt. I'm not trying to Old Earth. Yeah, that was right.
That was me doing the whatever. I don't know what it actually looks like, but the sun sign
the
that
sign
they do.
of
whenever,
the circle.
Every
So-
time
so I
someone
was
mentions
thinking it's
Earth,
like
they're like,
Like I take it for whatever
Exactly.
reason is like a circle.
Yeah, it's like a circle and then
maybe
like a
do
down.
like a meh, and
It's
then
got
like
like
huh?
this
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. It's very distinctly Catholic in my mind. But
Yeah, which
Yeah.
That's why I say I think they got a little bit of all of it. They just took everything they could from Old Earth.
yeah, well, I don't disagree.
And then
with
they
that.
smashed it into a religion that allowed them not to take the blame for destroying Old Earth.
As anyone might, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
Old Earth
it wasn't
wanted
our
us to
fault.
destroy her.
It was
She
just
wanted to sacrifice herself so we go to the stars.
an element
see?
of rebirth, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and so we can
As
bring
Elon
Old Earth
Musk
with us
said,
to
we
the-
must go to Mars.
Can't wait for a Musk drop.
Little Musk boy survives. No.
Anyways,
Um,
a very cool line, but I do want to talk about another
Yeah.
one a lot, and I gotta do it.
do it. Do you have one?
Yeah. It is one thing to die,
Hmm.
and quite another to have suffered the fear of death and survive. I wish neither for you, who has suffered both. What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do
I would just
mean?
like to say, what that mean?
What that mean? What do you think it means?
So it is one thing to have died.
Mhm.
It is another to have feared you will die and then survive. I myself have suffered both. Half mortal. It makes me very much so think about the thing half mortal, because I'm like, how are you a half mortal? Does that
Hmm.
mean you just don't die of old age, but you can be killed? No, I think it means you die, but you don't really die. Hadrian's gonna die
At what
and then
point?
not die. My prediction right now is
Or
the end
you
of this book.
wait. Are we?
I'll
Living?
throw a bet in there. Hadrian's gonna die at
Okay.
the end of this book,
All right.
and then be awake again in like the epilogue.
Adrian dies at the end of this book, but then either awakes
Resurrects something.
in the epilogue. I'll accept this on a wider scale. Epilogue.
I'm
Or
almost
I'm gonna
predicting
give you the
a-
next book, like the beginning of the next book.
Yeah. I'm almost predicting a Doctor Who ass regeneration situation. Like I
Interesting.
really don't know.
Yeah.
But he has hinted before. I don't remember the exact things, but this one, like, he deliberately says, like, yeah, I've died before.
Yeah, buddy. I'll
Now
fucking
there's
die.
one part of me,
Can you die?
the part of me that's leaning back on it, that's like, hey, maybe I'm reading too much into it, is that, you know, the official record, he has said, is that he's dead. So maybe that's a metaphorical death, a death of him in the public
Right.
sphere. As far as people know, he's died. So yeah, what he has done is die on record. But this feels
But
more
it's
like
that
he's saying,
death.
hey, like, I've done death. It sucks.
Right.
I got locked into that line. I missed like the next 4 lines on my first listen.
I want to bring up some of the next 4 lines. So small changes here, mostly additions. Such thinking, even our neighbors, blinds us to the ugliness of the world, teaches us to permit evil as the mean and ordinary thing it is, teaches us tolerance, for the man need not tolerate what is good. And at the very end of this chapter, it seems like Gillian Voss is going to die regardless. Like this is going to be the death of that man.
Yeah. And it's so interesting.
Is
I
it?
don't know if we were talking about a not a 1, 2, or 3, but certainly a 4 shadow, maybe a 5 shadow, possibly
Maybe
a
a
6
5
shadow.
Probably.
Gilliam Vass getting first blood was 10 shadowed this entire time. Right? Like we all
Right.
knew
It
that
was
there's no
bound.
way
Yeah.
that Hadrian, who keeps for some reason remembering that Gibson thinks pride is a bad thing, and remembering that he's never taken a life, and like all of these little things, I'm like, by the end of this chapter, I'm like, the first blood thing's not going to work.
Right. Absolutely.
getting
it was
first
very
blood.
obvious. Yeah.
And at this point, based on the line that I called out, I'm like, either Gilliam's dying or Hadrian is going to die in this chapter. And then I don't know, the book's going to take a wild turn. So
The whole series at that point, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's so clear at the end of this. Gilliam is going to die. And it's not about, to me going into this, it's not about the tenseness of what could happen to Hadrian, but it's more about like it's like that Rashomon of it all. Like, you know what happens, someone's going to die and you're just like waiting to figure out how it happened. It's a very good setup. One of the few chapters like this, there was one a few sections ago that we also talked about where it's like a page, if that, and
it's the same thing where it's like
feels like
removed
maybe
and
it was
extracted.
added in. Yeah, exactly. But it's just this moment of like reflection before the story begins again that feels very much so just in the head of Hadrian, half mortal, sun eater, demon tongue sitting in his library prison, not Hadrian right now in the prison.
Yeah, it does make it tough to evaluate the way that we feel about this, right? Where it's like, okay, are you justifying this at the end of your life, or are you actually understanding and seeing this for what it is in the moment?
Well, I don't know about the end of his life, because he will probably just die and be regenerated again,
absolutely,
Doctor Who style.
Permanently regenerated, right? Like the man crawls out of the cave.
I guess Doctor Who did define that he can only do it 13 times, but then now he does it 14 or 15.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're at like 14 split genus into 2 different A and B models, and now we've got a whole different problem. Thank you, Graham.
I stopped watching at Matt Smith, so who's to say?
I never started, and I've never stopped as a part of that, so...
Hey, that's a good call.
Doing great. Doing great. It's like the one sci-fi fantasy thing that I've barely touched. So
it's simultaneously not very good and
so
incredible.
good. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I understand.
You ever seen Supernatural?
Yes. I have.
Yeah,
that's
better and worse in both directions.
So that's my brother's favorite show, and his girlfriend bought him tickets to go to the Supernatural convention that's happening in Virginia. So they're going. And they're like,
damn.
I think they're only like 1,000 total tickets. So they're like, they'll get to do everything.
Crazy.
It's 2 days of like, okay, that I guess that'll be very fun. I'm very excited for them.
That'll be 2 days of Jensen Ackles being like, I really gotta go. I got so many jobs.
So many photos. I gotta like go do a whole thing with the boys and the other boys show and like a
Jared
third boys show.
being like, thank God I need the money.
Man, I've been eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 4 weeks now.
Jared, if you're a listener of this podcast, sup dog, that's so cool that you listen. I think you probably have money and are a good actor.
It's mostly a bit. It's mostly a bit. We love you so much. Okay, cool. That said, this feels like a good point to move into the Sword Art
for
order.
Sure. Let's talk about this duel.
I love the fact that the duel title is also the family title that we've been introduced to over the course of the whole novel, right? The Sword Art Order. The way that we speak is through violence, which is sort of what this advocates for.
The Sword Art Order, only to have. I don't want to jump too ahead in this chapter.
Hit me with your sword bit.
The chapter is the Sword Art Order, and the conclusion of the chapter is red and black, the colors of my house.
Right. Exactly.
It's so good. It's so good.
And it's so obvious, but like it's so nailed. You know what I mean?
I would
like,
also
it's so
say
perfectly executed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's I couldn't help but this is the second time in this section that I went that's kind of an Abercrombieism.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know I'm giving a whole like guy who's only ever read First Law. This is giving me First Law vibes, but like, it just makes me think of the beginning of Best Served Cold. The sky was gold, red,
blood
and
red,
black, the colors of their profession.
Yeah.
But not in a way where I'm like, oh, he's doing that, but in a way where I'm like, oh, it evokes that same level of like, damn,
feeling
good.
Like your heart is captured for a moment.
I really like it. I also will say that as a sword fight, I mean, we're moving towards the back fourth even of the book at this point.
Right. There are only 12 chapters left or 13 chapters left at this point.
Like a climactic sword fight duel. It's written in a way that is very distinctly not super action oriented. Like it's almost not exciting, but it's very engaging. It's not written in a way where you're like, ooh, sword fight, who's gonna win? How's it gonna go? And more in a way of just impending doom.
Right. Because based on the last chapter, the end is coming. And then instead you're seeing Hadrian go through the steps of the end in so many ways, which does come with some surprises, including the fact that he loses first blood, right? Like there's some moments as this engagement is called, the fight begins. I'm skipping over a little bit here, but I do want to mention that like Switch is such a perfect second here. He says, "Yeah, no shit, Hade. Sorry, sir, my lordship." Before the duel is finally called. Like I love that whole like little like kind of like cross banter. It's so good.
I love Switch before. I love Switch now.
I love him forever.
I really hope that if whatever war that Hadrian's been talking about and all that, by that point we just never see Switch again, like Saltus style. Because if Switch goes to war with Hade, I'm gonna have a scene that I really don't like at some point in the future.
Right, entirely. Switch is not escaping that scene. You know, like the sun there will be an eclipse and everyone around him will die. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And I really don't want to know that happened. I would like for Switch to go have a happy life amongst the stars with Polino. But
absolutely, it would be awful.
Which, okay, real quick aside, one of the things I was talking about where I talk about kind of like the not selfish in like the intentional sense, but kind of the Palatine ingrained selfishness of Hadrian is the fact that while he's in his quote gilded cage, which we'll talk about later, and he can ask for an incredibly expensive bottle of wine, a bottle of wine that I have to assume, based on the rules of the world placed before us, costs more than the life of a Myrmidon.
Almost certainly.
Has never just asked for his friends to come live in the palace or like be set free and have their debts forgiven. If this
like
guy
a
needs his
problem
genome,
that he could have like maybe solved.
Yeah, he has all these people and he's like, man, they're dying down there. And I'm like, you have never just asked this guy like, hey, I will teach your kids whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. Can you just get my friends out of the pits?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, if he was like, can my friends come work in the kitchens?
It would have worked.
He would have said,
and he would have been fine. Yeah.
And Balian would have been like, oh, yeah,
No
sure.
big
Just
deal,
make a list.
dude. Yeah.
Like that would not matter to him at all. Can 6 Myrmidons come serve as my personal guard or serve as like room attendants that are battle trained? Can they garden for you? He would have just been like, yeah.
Yeah, he would have been like, fine.
And
sure,
he never
dude.
thinks to ask.
They're gonna
Anyways,
live, they're gonna live like 60 years, so sounds great.
And that's nothing for me. I'm dying already at 200, and that's crazy. Right. You know?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry. Back to this chapter. No, that just bugs me that Hadrian has never asked.
Yeah. That said, the engagement is called. The fight begins. Many jabs deflected on either side, like we were talking about earlier. Before Hadrian internalizes and reflects, it is the mistake of poets, of a librettists like my mother, to believe that fighting is ever only one thing. They believe the work of a soldier, the game of a gladiator, the art of the duelist are all the same, and that those are the same as the chaos of fighting on the streets and in the country of the villages of 1,000 worlds. There is fighting. And there is fighting.
There's fighting and there's fighting is maybe
Christopher,
my favorite line from the section.
Asshole! This is so good.
Also, I mean, I've like casually dropped on this. I think that I did grow up doing competitive martial arts.
Yeah,
and
right.
Holy shit, if you are used to a certain set of rules and then you go into a fight with a different set of rules, you are going to lose. Yeah, no matter if you are better prepared than the other person. Like, there's fighting and there's fighting.
That's a lot of reason that like people advocate more widely for like Muay Thai compared to like not a lot of other styles, is because like it's actively like more about what's coming at you as opposed to reacting to like specific circumstances.
Well, it's interesting. Like, I did Taekwondo, Kung Fu, Eskrima, and Jiu-Jitsu. But then I would go to a Taekwondo exclusive competition where like the Taekwondo school I did, we'd wear helmets and hand and foot pads, basically, but nothing else. And headshots were
just
allowed
naked.
As long as side of the head, just not back of the head or face, above the belt. And then I would go to a competition.
Again,
and
just to clarify, dicks out?
It depended on your belt. So you weren't allowed to come out until purple belt.
All right,
but
got it.
Yeah, and then you did have to wear a condom until you were a red belt, because that's whenever you were an advanced belt, technically. But
totally.
We had to learn the advanced breathing, so STIs couldn't affect us.
Oh, yeah, that's how that works for sure.
Is what I've been telling all my partners ever since.
And Leslie is
No, honey, I
an
don't need
excellent
that. I'm a
wife.
red belt.
I'm a second degree black belt, by the way. Anyways.
Oh God.
I
had to ask.
Yeah. So like I'd go to a competition and I'm used to like side of the head, okay, face not okay, back of the head not okay, above the belt. And then I'd get there and it would be like no head at all. And I'm like, no head? That's crazy.
Wild.
Ew.
Yeah.
Boring.
How dare you?
What is this, Modesto? And it was. And then also you have to wear these like big clunky super crazy chest pads, and it's like I would be 10 times the fighter of the person I was fighting, but they're not covering their head at all. And all I know is like, don't get kicked in the fucking head.
Right.
So like they're just in like this weird little turtle stance. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? And then I'd lose the fight and be like, I could have knocked this guy out if I was allowed to.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what this feels like.
Yeah.
I know that that's a big spin on this, but like we're in a specific type of fight. And yeah, if the fight was, hey, the two of you have to wrestle over a loaf of bread in the gutters, Hadrian's gonna win probably because he's done that. But like he hasn't been dueling and Gilliam Vast has, and now you're in like polite society duels culture. And all of a sudden he's realizing he's rusty as fuck for that. And
but also I think he's also playing and properly downplaying like the way that like a lot of people just describe sword fighting as though it's one thing, you know, like this is a very unique anecdote and I want to bring it up just because like it's timely in the moment, but like Dragonsteel Nexus just happened, right? Relatively recently as we're recording this, and there is a video of Christopher Rocchio fighting, I want to say it was Christopher, the author of Aragon, which is
Christopher Poloni.
Yes. So they were dueling, and Poloni had this like wide stance, and Rocchio, of whom is in a HEMA like trained duelist, and of whom has taken many classes, absolutely schooled him because he took like a rapier stance, and like fucking Paolini had no idea what to do, and he got three clean on him without like any rebuttal. And that's crazy for the two of them. Like it does not make any sense. And I love that for Christopher, but also like that's this, you know, to some degree, like fighting isn't fighting. You have to know the moment in which you might take up a stance. You might do a thing, you know, because that would not beat us, you know, like gang beating his ass because like we don't care if we get stabbed, you know.
I mean, I kind of ran into that the first time I did SCA, which is like old school medieval fencing.
Oh yeah,
like run fairs and stuff.
Right.
But like I had done at that point, like I had taken kendo classes, fencing classes, and then back to the Eskrima background. And it's like they're doing one type of thing. And I showed up and they're like, oh, you've done this before. And I was like, no, I haven't done this before.
But I understand the ideas or the concepts. Yeah.
From that, now everyone on the podcast is going to think I think I'm some kind of badass. If you walk up to me in the street and you say, can I have all your lunch money? I'm going to give it to you. I'm scared all the time.
Man, $5? Yeah, that's all I got. Cool.
Exactly. You think I carry cash? Yeah, I have my cards.
Also, I'll Venmo you $20. Leave me alone. Let me keep my ID.
Have all my debt.
Take my cards. Just leave me my ID. I'll Venmo you $20.
Yeah. Anyways, there is also all of this. Jesus. Oh, I do like the parallel again. There's a little parallel to something earlier in the section. Whenever First Blood is drawn, it is not a moment that we actually are told where First Blood is drawn. It is a moment that happens in reflection. He doesn't know when it happens. He looks down and it has happened. It is a reflection in a mirror to the time that he punches Gilliam Vast to cause this entire thing. And he seals the fate of the duel. Gilliam Vast seals his own mortal fate in much the same prosaic way. I think it's really cool.
Right. I mean, both from the perspective of like what Hadrian scores on him as like a final kind of thing, but then also what Hadrian misses as to the wound that he takes. He doesn't realize. Right? Like both exist in and of themselves as comparisons to the initial like slap that Hadrian like kind of exerts back. So it's such a cool moment because like we get a little bit of both. Like Hadrian doesn't know when he struck the final blow. He just knows that that's happened. Also, Hadrian is
right, yeah.
dancing around the idea of like even trying to kill him after he loses first blood, which he also doesn't realize or see. So there's so many fun moments here. And it is a slow duel. This is a slow duel by comparison to a lot, but like I don't know that it loses its tension at any moment.
I will say,
that.
I think to pull it back a little bit to earlier in the duel, I think it's interesting the way that fighting styles are kind of described here. In the sense that usually whenever you think about a parry, it is a dexterous movement. Whereas he specifically notes that like Gilliam's parries are so strong he can't get through. So it's not that Gilliam is, glancing his sword away. He's smashing that away quickly.
It's
hard.
It's more
he's attacking his sword.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an interesting thing where like everything he's ever fought up to this point isn't really that. He's expecting him to be easily enraged and then come at him with good form still, the way that Crispin would. But no, it's so different. It's more like he's fighting those like super strong guys back in the hangar whenever he first
or
woke
maybe
up
a version of himself in a way.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting fight. I think it builds enough tension to maintain itself being interesting up to that first blood, where the tension is, can he get first blood? Which we all already know he can't. He won't, or at least. He could, but he won't.
Either he can and he will, and then he doesn't accept it as like the end of the fight.
Yeah,
or,
so there's this tension of like where this fight's going to go in that direction. And then once that's done, it's more of a tension
about how does he kill
Hadrian take his first life. Yeah. And I will say my first read through on the actual moment of death. Spoilers for anybody who stopped
fucking
halfway
read the
Sword
book.
Of Our Order.
My God.
I know you're listening to this. You're like, I made it halfway through Sword of the Order or the Sword Our Order. I should be able to listen to the episode. Gilliam dies. So that moment of death. First off, that idea of like my blade on like steel on steel, steel on leather, steel on bone is like, I really like that kind of flow of phrasing, as it's not so much like he attacks, but just his steel is on steel and then it's on leather. It almost blames Gilliam for his own death rather than taking like responsibility for the killing thrust.
To give two additional quotes around that weight, which I think they're well deserving, because I do think that you're entirely correct. Yeah. Like there's that like hip stab that you're basically talking about, which is like the, funnily like cutting through a lot of things. Aeneas from the balcony shouts, "Hadrian, you're playing with him," as Hadrian continues to realize that he can't bring himself to kill the man. As we mentioned before, couldn't take the opportunity to do so. He stabs him once, twice through the hips, like you're mentioning, and reflecting, "You must think it strange that I, who has supped more on blood than most empires, could not kill a single man. I say again, a single death is a tragedy," calling way back to our quote that we were discussing from Stalin.
A single death is a tragedy. What's the
a
back
million
half?
is a statistic. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And
then like there was no climax. A thing happens and it is over. Like that's so right. That's such the way that things happen.
And he looks down and blood blossomed from the wound and across his black leather vest.
Yeah.
And it was red and black, the colors of his house.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's within this on my first
decay
listen
into naught. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
like diminishing by decay.
Mm-hmm.
Every breath gets a little bit less. But there is a line in there that on my first listen I didn't like. It actually kind of bugged me. On my second listen, I was like, I still don't necessarily love it. On my third listen, it kind of reframed it.
Yeah.
And it's Gilliam's last words, because he's presenting him as actively dying, punctured lung, bleeding out, blood and lung, can't really talk. But then he goes into a piece of dialogue that feels very too conversational. Too many words for
too many words.
Gasping
many words.
last breaths.
So pained.
He's like, "My lords and ladies, or my lord and lady, do not trust." And then he can't talk anymore. And I'm like, that's if I almost like in my first listen, I was like, it'd be so much more impactful if like all he could get out was like, "Do not trust, and then he fucking dies. Right. On my second listen, I was like, it's still like feels too conversational, too many words, but like, okay, I guess. I guess we don't really know where he is in decline. Now, on my third listen, I realized how many times throughout the novel up to this point, Gilliam Vass has been offended by somebody not referring to somebody with their proper title. And it's interesting that Gilliam Vass uses what he wants to say is do not trust this. Do not trust Hadrian and this witch, right? Like if we can assume that that's what he wants to say, but he wastes his breath addressing them correctly. So he can't finish his sentence.
Yeah.
And I think that is like kind of a play on this whole idea of like the world the Chantry needs to exist and like this imperial code that they all live in. And this like zealot thought process of this man. He cannot bring himself to address them incorrectly. So he literally lets himself die before he can give the message that he was using his dying breath to give them, because he can't get past the zealotry of properness.
There's a formality to that point, right? Like there's like in the zealotry, there's a formality in which he's like, I must make the claim that you Yeah, he can't just be like, don't trust this guy and the witch. He's got to be like, my lord, my lady, don't. And then he fucking dies. And it's like, I'm doing like the D&D counting the words in the spell thing, right?
You know, and I'm like, my lord, my lady, please do not. And then he's dead.
Well, and then he gets 16 words, and you're like, oh, fuck. Well,
I was
that
like,
sucks.
dog, you could have told them more important things.
You failed 2
you
death saves in those 10 words.
Look, at the end of the day, if you were ever going to skip the address to get them important information, you cannot have a repercussion. You're dying.
You know? Right. You're
like,
toast.
There is no like social snafu if there's no one to be mad at because you're literally dead.
It is on you entirely.
But I thought that was an interesting moment where I didn't like it at first. It felt like bad writing to me in my first listen.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was like, why are you telling me he's dying, but then like using all these words? On the second time through, I was like, okay, no, I think and on the third time through, I was like, oh, it's because of his zealotry. He can't bring himself not to address them properly.
He needs to address religion as a part of his death and like a part of the fallout, because it has to be the accepted norm. Like this is the law, and he's accepting the law simultaneously with everything else. Ugh. Yeah, which is so crazy shitty. That said, this like duel is crazy. We talked about a lot of that. Anything else on Gilliam Vass?
Oh man,
that's being the like crazy primary villain of this novel suddenly.
Yeah. Okay, and the way that this novel's not formatted like anything else
like
I've ever known.
It's like
crazy
a season of TV again. Like
I would say you're completely right. He's the villain of this novel. He's in an 8th of this novel.
Yeah, aggressively a 7th. Yeah,
weird. Yeah. You know, like he shows up past halfway and he dies before we're in the last 4th.
Right, but he's also emblematic of the Chantry on the whole. So like this is kind of the like.
I would say Gilliam Vass, and also what's his mom's name?
Legia. Yeah.
Legia to me, I assume is going to be maybe a bigger role moving forward. Based on what we get in the last couple of chapters here. But like Legia is kind of a higher representation of the Chantry in a lot of ways. The Chantry is the villain here, but like Gilliam is our most direct antagonist.
For sure.
Like the only other antagonists in this are
this Alistair? Fagin, vaguely. Alistair for sure.
Yep. We have Alistair, and then we have Society, and we have maybe a vague Sealson threat.
Yeah,
like
the aliens.
It's hard to make Society or maybe aliens the threat, you know? So like it's cool to have Gilliam show up. It's just so weird how it's structured. But yeah, and now we have killed our villain and we get to deal with the consequences of that.
Absolutely. With that, I think we can get into a kind of exile here. Hadrian finds himself confronted by Lord Balin Mataro and his prior wants Hadrian dead, which leads to Balin revealing his full hand. He'd meant to keep Hadrian quietly in his company for a number of years, as he was hoping to marry him off to Aeneas secretly, or Dorian, if that's what he's interested in. But Aeneas seemed right, and it wouldn't have been for quite some time.
I want to say that I laugh at the Dorian thing, not from a homophobia standpoint, but because it reminds me how many times in this book someone is like, made that like, so Crispin is like, hey, like, you want to go hang out with all the ladies in the harem? He's like, no. He's like,
I'm not sure.
They got boys too? And then like with Bailey, and actually also he's like, my father sold me, and he's like, oh, it's not that bad to be sold to some lady.
Yeah.
Or Lord.
Or Lord?
Right here he's like,
You coulda
I was gonna
done worse.
I was gonna have you marry my daughter or son. And it reminds me of like, if anybody ever watched Psych, how many times like they'd go somewhere and people would be like, so one room, and they'd be like, no.
2, yeah. 2 beds, 2
And
beds.
it's just like kind of a funny reoccurring bit here. Yeah.
I don't view it as too much more than that, so much as it is like an optionality that's like, hey, if that's what you're interested in, I didn't think it was, but maybe. Okay.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And I mean, I do like that it shows like this kind of like, hey,
he's trying.
That's like,
Bailey's
that's
kind of trying to be
literally nothing
approachable.
here.
Like he actually is
Yeah.
considering him. Like I think a lot of the rest of this chapter paints him from Hadrian's perspective to be very maniacal. But I actually think in this one moment in which he's considering his like
I don't think I've
sexual
gotten maniacal
preferences.
from. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten maniacal from Bailey in once. I've gotten
This
maybe
is the only time,
pragmatic.
maybe. But like
Even in this chapter, like I really see Hadrian as like crashing out over what is a pretty good offer for anybody else.
Sure. Yeah, for
You
sure.
know,
He's like,
like-
I am a stud for like a whore. I'm nothing more than a whore. And it's like, well, like, okay, kind
Like,
of.
okay,
if
so
you
Bailey
really
does go
view it.
like, yeah, you are, but also in this society, we've already been shown that is like a part of the society,
Yeah.
and in this situation,
Right.
yeah, he is, you know, like-
Absolutely. And he's like
I don't
mad about
know.
it. It's like, okay, I get you maybe being mad about that in quiet, but like in person in this moment, okay.
Yeah, I don't
fine.
know. Bailey and
Like,
Mataro's
what are you
over
gonna
here.
win about being mad?
Like, which of my kids would you marry? And then
you've got 2
we
options.
Can get
you can choose.
whatever,
We'll let you choose. I'll let you choose.
and then we'll put you in whatever high post you want. And then also, he's not like, hey, don't go hang out with that doctor you have a crush on. He's like, yeah, hey, go hang out with the doctor.
You can
Hell
have
yeah,
concubines. Who gives a shit? You know?
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
He's basically like, let me give you the best life I possibly can. All I want is your genes.
I
And then-
literally want your sperm.
And
In
then
this
Hadrian's
case.
like, you can't have my sperm. I'm not some common whore. And he's like, actually, like, legitimately, you are.
That's actually
right now,
all
that's
you are.
been
Yeah.
established. You know?
Also,
Like-
here's a letter from your dad that says
That says,
and your
hey.
grandmother that say, ooh, you're no better than that, actually, which just
Yeah.
layers on the pain.
So here's a letter from your dad and good old grandmammy, and it says, we hereby denounce Hadrian of House Marlowe as now no better than a common whore. So actually, it is right there.
And buddy, this is a pretty good deal. Like by
It's
comparison.
the best. I mean, I have to assume, listening throughout the rest of these books, that this will be the best deal he has offered.
I mean, it's certainly the least invasive deal, and like the life in which he might lead that would not commit xenocide, you know? Like
Yeah. Look, I'm just saying, if he married Anais and then he doesn't even have to pop out a few kids. She doesn't have to pop out a few kids. They don't even have to sleep together. He just has to like politically bind himself to this family and then add his genome to a tube.
Yeah.
And then he can just have like a pretty chill life, and he could study the Uman, and he could go study the fucking quiet from that one spot, and he could hang out with Valka when she comes through, and he could chill, and he could probably get permission to go off system and study other like obelisks and stuff. But no, he doesn't like his gilded cage because the bird doesn't care that the cage is gilded.
Hang on. We're gonna talk about that in a fucking moment. But yeah, you know, I get it. Yeah.
I don't know.
no,
I
kind
get
of
that
agree.
this scene for most people is probably like, yeah, no, you tell him, Hadrian, but I'm reading it and I'm like, hey, dog, if somebody showed up and they're like, I'll pay your rent, I'll get you whatever job you want, you can go be a rock star, you just have to be a sperm donor for my daughter and live here half the year, I'd be like, hell yeah. You know? Like, I would sign up for that shit so fast. And if I
Most
didn't,
people would.
Leslie, my wife, would beat the shit out of me. She'd be like, we could have been living in La Vida Loca, but all you said was no.
You said
can't
live in
have my
you said live in
You
La
can't
Vida Margarita. This is bullshit.
And now, because you didn't want to don a little sperm, form. You didn't even have to sleep with the girl. You just had to be like, yeah, take my blood and do what you want with it. And then sign a paper that says we're technically legally binded.
Okay, fuck off. Yeah, no,
this guy threw away the golden opportunity. I think that he would have had a better opportunity to become an archeologist if he just like played it cooler.
If he shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Then whatever the fuck happens to him for the rest of the story. But I was so mad reading this. This is the most mad at Hadrian I've been since his dad was like, you're going to the Chantry. Yeah. He's like, you can't. And I was like, okay, Ron Weasley, shut the fuck up. I mean, I think that was actually
it was
Hermione
a very
Granger.
reasonable reaction. Yeah, but it's fine. Yeah. Comparatively, that's a much more reasonable reaction. This actually, like, okay, well, I get being mad at Bailey and Mataro for scheming.
He's been the nicest person we've met this book.
He's so good to him. And that's why, like, I take so much personal offense to, like, he's like, you will be my son. And, like, that's not intended as an offense. Although, like, this is a lower house. And so I kind of, like, I try to understand those things. Sure. Simultaneously, like, fuck, man. You were disowned in the worst way from your family.
Bro, you were
Where
eating
the fuck
rats,
else could you
and
go?
You just want 2 years ago, your biggest dream was boots.
Yeah, right. With Cat.
We just talked about, and I wish I remembered to talk about it back in Second or in Barbarian, where Switch looks at the fact that your feet are still covered in blisters and fucking calluses from your years on the street with no shoes. He doesn't ask about it. And all of a sudden you have everything in the world and an opportunity to just hang out with Valka as much as you want, an opportunity to study all the things you wanted to study, and an opportunity to maybe even ask for your fucking friends in the goddamn Myrmidon pits that you haven't thought about ever doing this for to get them out of there. And you could probably just say, hey, yeah, I'll do this if you buy my friends a ship. And you don't.
We could have had a singular trade here that you could have made.
Yeah,
instead.
He's like, oh, I won't do this. And he's like, you're not in a position to bargain. But I guarantee you, if you were like, all right, well, obviously I have to do this, and this is a very generous offer, and I really appreciate that. Would you be willing to, so that I can do this with my full heart? Yeah. Help my friends out of the Myrmidon pit.
Not a good negotiator. Hadrian is.
No. Yeah. And we know that he actually kind of is, because he got his fucking credit chip back in the day. We know he knows how to negotiate, but he can't think about anybody but himself in the moment and his emotions. For somebody who wanted to be a scholiast, Hadrian is the most emotional little bitch sometimes. I'm sorry. This chapter made me mad. Not in a way where it's bad writing. It's great writing. It's Hadrian pisses me off.
Listeners, this is the most aggravated I've seen Josh at practically anything. I mean, not entirely. I've seen twice, maybe more. But, like, this is close.
I've done 3 listens through this chapter, and all 3 times I had to pause it and yell. Like, I don't know what it is about this chapter. I think it's the opposite of wish fulfillment. It's watching someone be given my wish fulfillment, squandering it, and being mad about it. Yeah. I'm like, dog.
Like, literally, I have children on the world, and that's fine. Okay,
moving on.
With that, we'll get into Gilded Cage, which is the worst version of what you're talking about, almost to some degree. Like, at the very least, he's not confronting it directly, but instead indirectly. Hadrian is back at doing what Hadrian does best, my friend. A little bit of sulking while drunk on wine. I was
say sulking.
Yeah. Valka comes in and gets him some water because he's so wasted. He's running himself for multiple reasons. The guilt of losing her, the guilt of killing the man, and the reality of what he's going to become as this stud, which, as we've reflected, is actually kind of good. We should give that a thumbs up.
Bro, great job.
He's 2 out of 3. He's 2 out of 3, and it would be okay.
It's the only time someone's ever been offered, like, the world in exchange for their sperm, and they didn't even have to fuck anybody.
And also, Baleen is like, yeah, go fucking do whatever you want. I need to hide you somewhere. What do you want to do? He asks Valka politely to go to Calagah, and she's like, yeah, no problem.
Exactly. And in this chapter, he gets permission to go do the thing he wanted to do. And it's not even worth going back to see him ask Baelian, because of course Baelian's going to say yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Shoot me in the goddamn head. Hadrian pisses me off sometimes.
Yeah.
It's well written, but the guy needs to go to war and destroy his son so that he can get a little bit more of a perspective, I think.
Absolutely. In my notes, I put quick AI rent, and I think I had something to say about it, like AI tying into a portion of the story, but now we're going to let that go. But I do love. I was so mad at this. I think when I read it
you were probably
initially.
making your notes and like your Google Docs or whatever was like, would you like us to clean that up with AI? And you're like, no, I don't want that.
Oh no, you've actually activated it. I forgot, and now I remember.
Okay.
This is so much worse. Okay, so what happened is I was actually searching for some details that were within this, which is actually the quote that comes after this, which is the bird cares not that his cage is gilded, a great honor, even if it was a kind of prison, a kind of poison. So I searched just the first part, and it was like, the bird cares not that his cage is gilded.
I thought about
I've heard
searching
this
that, and
before.
I was like, I'm gonna get some bullshit AI answer, and then I didn't search it.
Not only did I get some bullshit AI answer, I got so many bullshit AI answers as I continued to dig in and like research a couple of different options that could be close, that it was so fucking wrong the more work that I did that it only got worse as it was recommending answers. So that said, it tried to recommend Maya Angelou, of whom it has many excellent, like an excellent poem, The Cage Bird Sings, which is one of, like, I think, in my opinion, like probably a top 5 poem for myself. Why does the
but I
cage
think
bird
that
sing?
has much relevance on this specific quote as Talking Bird by Death Cab for Cutie, which is also great.
So fucking lootly.
But it's not what this is.
It's not even close. And there were a couple of other examples from the 1800s that I tried to pull and be like, oh, this is like a reference. And I was like, no, it's fucking not. This isn't anywhere close. The closest.
Well, if you think about it, the yellow brick road was gilded with yellow paint and the monkeys did fly, so...
This is such a perfect example. Searching just that line, the bird cares not that his cage is gilded, yields awful results within AI at the moment. And it's so
almost
shitty.
like we're the birds and we're being caged inside of this gilded fucking technological
You nailed what I was
prison
going
so that
for
we
here,
can...
Josh. Like you like
welcome to
the
techno-feudalism, baby.
The
Watch it all
logical
crumble.
prison that they're trying to make us all be caught in is like such a bullshit, as we've like lost the ability. We've gone from understanding and
The age of
easy-
information is officially dead.
Entirely. Like the ability to easily search things is completely gone, and now we must revert after this like great age of like 20 years of almost being able to access whatever we wanted at whatever time we wanted.
Information at our
accurately.
fingertips,
We
which
are
actually
now,
made us worse at finding information without it at our
a
fingertips.
lot of people made a lot of people a lot worse in that way. But for a number of people, it was okay. Now, instead, we're like burning on the cross, practically trying to find information that's even remotely close, which then rewards the people, thankfully, that like have the skills. But my fucking God, what a great example of like a quote gone awry that I was searching any information about, because I was like,
I remember I
know
used
a
to
gilded
get
cage, but
fucking roasted if in an argument I would look up some stuff and I would go to the second page of Google. And they'd be like, oh, you have to go to the second page to find the thing you're talking about. Now it's like if somebody shows me something from the first 3 pages,
yeah,
I'll be like,
it's got to be in the 5th page to be accurate.
The fuck
you know what
are
I mean?
you showing me?
Yeah.
Some weird AI fever dream? Like,
even with like a minus AI prompt, like you're still dealing with like AI generated. Anyway, that was my core point on here in the quick rant on AI.
I
was
agree, and I'm happy this rant was here. 'Cause,
It's especially so aggravating for literature and like things like this, of which have like such a deep history that we should care about. And like Christopher Rocchio is very proactively advocating for as a part of his prose. He incorporates so much of historical like so many different like historical writing references that like it feels disingenuous to not suggest that like that's the intent. And my hope is go ahead.
I'll just say that based on the little bit I know about the world, I know that the Tavrosi were never enslaved by the Mercani AI, which means that the bad imperial world we're living in, that's hyper-religious techno-feudalism, exists within the same culture that made AI the most important facet of their domination, because they're the ones that were eventually overpowered by it. So maybe we shouldn't do that.
We'll see those results someday. I love this chapter for a number of reasons, like we've already talked about. There's some interesting moments within the gilded cage that we find ourselves in. But I love this quote. I was left in the silence for the better part of a minute, watching the bob and dart of tiny ships against the distant Celadon Sea. In the evening sunlight, the green waters turned the color of mud, and all the world was as cheap as a bad painting. This was what Gibson meant about the ugliness of the world, I thought. But perhaps the world was perfect. It was only myself that was ugly.
It's a very good quote.
I love this for many reasons. There are so many layers to pick apart here. One is Hadrian's interpretation of art being a perspective, art being imperfect, but a perfect representation in so many ways, right? Like, and then in addition, Gibson's interpretation of the idea of the ugliness of the world being like a facet of art. This is, in my opinion, given all the context, one of the best quotes in this book. It's perfect, practically. It is a summation of Christopher's feeling on art.
I also feel like there's a piece of this quote that, as somebody who has not read this book and the next ones,
sure,
this isn't the first time he's brought up the ugliness of the world post that quote of the ugliness of the world,
right?
And I feel like this is, in his moment, in retrospect, what he thought the ugliness of the world is, and it will develop with him. That's almost like this like thing I've been given, where he's like, oh, the ugliness must be whenever you're sad about being given the best opportunity in life. And then
you're so lucky to be so lucky.
And then throwing it away because now all the brown mud looks brown and it should be green because that'd be more interesting, you know. And it's like, okay, but no,
this is also him realizing that like brown mud is good, like, you know, to some degree
exactly.
from that perspective, like, you know.
Oh man, it's such a cool way to look at art, but
it's a very different lens to take on this, for the record. I'm not necessarily advocating that is the foolproof stance on this, but I personally view it as like this sort of like meta evaluation of the way that Hadrian has talked about art and the world and everything else over the course of this book.
To me, it just comes across so much as Hadrian sulking, you know, like,
which is the case.
I mean, it's well written sulking for sure. It's sulking that, and I think like the impressive piece of it is it's sulking that like puts us in not just the mindset but the feelings of the person sulking in a way where like we feel that this is Hadrian sulking for the best thing he's ever been offered. But and it's hard to like logically move past that for me in this moment, knowing only the amount of the story I know. So
yeah, I mean, it makes it an interesting and tough point to like degrade and like kind of think about. So I definitely get it. We do get more details as they catch up about him having been disowned between Felka and he, the ring being much of anything to anyone anymore. No one really gives a shit, and now he's barely a member of his own family. Volka slaps him in the moment, which is interesting considering the slaps being important before this moment, which he takes as like waking up, which in any other context he might have taken it as offense.
He probably would have challenged her to a duel.
And then like stabbed her to death, I guess. I don't know. Shake him out of this, and it's his fault. And in the end, she agrees to let him come along with her to Calagah. I love the quote here that kind of summarizes this thought. The fool believes the inequities of the world are the fault of other men. Gibson's voice, dry as old manuscript pages, had never been more clear. The truly wise try to change themselves, which is the more difficult and less grand task.
Yeah, I really like that quote. That quote to me stood out so much because, how do I put this?
It's a very Marcus Aurelius, like it's a boiled down version of a Marcus Aurelius thought, but yeah.
I as somebody who has had to come to terms with my own entire belief in the world.
So say we all, or many of us at the very least.
It is much easier to develop your stances and beliefs and things in a way that supports your belief system. I mean, it all comes down to cognitive dissonance, right? Like that's what this is explaining. It's just like, hey, whenever faced with cognitive dissonance, a fool will believe that dissonance is other people's fault, and somebody better than that will look inward and realize that the fault lies within their own belief within the world, and they have to adjust. And it is the hardest thing, and it doesn't feel good.
No,
but
it's unnatural.
It's unnatural. It's fighting against your own neural pathways doesn't feel nice.
Nobody likes that. Yeah.
No, nobody likes that. But yeah, I do like that quote. I like this chapter also. I just don't have like a ton to say about it.
Yeah, no, it's clean as far as like internally, like the monologue and the ideas go.
It's an interesting chapter though, where I feel like without much being said, we get a better idea of Hadrian and Valka's relationship.
Of course. Yeah.
Because if Hadrian is as much of a like nuisance as he views himself.
Yeah. Right.
To Valka, she's not going to take him to Calagah. Like, I think that it is so clear to me as a slightly autistic person who
Vaguely,
has definitely been flirted with a lot of times and not picked up on it, that Hadrian like views this relationship with Valka in a way where he's like, I was in love with her and she didn't even notice me. In a way, she was interested, just not in the same way, not the same dynamic that he was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I think that like if Hadrian was like, do you want to have like a physically romantic relationship and then also talk about science but not be exclusive? Should have been like, yeah. But,
sounds
like,
great. Yeah.
Hadrian is not capable of that conversation.
That combination of things at the same time.
Exactly.
He's like, the best I can do is peanut butter and jelly without bread. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
and she's like,
no, we
how
need the
do
bread.
I? Can I get a spoon? And he's like, no.
He's like, no,
Yeah,
no.
not. Yeah. So
all I've got are sporks.
Yeah, like that would work, but I don't want that.
Like, not the way that I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, there's just this chapter kind of like I think highlights Valka in a way where it shows she does care for Hadrian, and not just in like a friendly way, in my opinion. Not necessarily in a romantic way, but certainly in a flirtatious way.
Given the context that we get, it seems like there's maybe more there. We'll see.
Exactly.
Right?
She's touching his face throughout this. He's
There's
drunk as hell. Like, he doesn't really remember
when he's wasted, it's like just a little sandwich face. It's just like a little moment of like, hey.
Yeah. I wish I could remember it in this moment in its exactness. But there's a line where like they keep talking, I think at the very end of this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and I don't know what we said. That is smeared across my memory.
Which is a very drunk thing to think, but yeah, love that.
Like that's such a cool thought. It's
Yeah.
smeared across my memory.
Right.
Like he knows they talked about more stuff and he kind of knows what it was about, but like
vague. Vague at best.
I think it's such a nice, beautiful moment. Yeah.
All right, Josh, I gave you one more chapter here. This would have been a good place to cut it off to some degree because there are many questions that could be asked. But I do think that giving you Calagah was sort of a little bit of a nudge, gimme,
a confession to make,
on like where we're going. You know,
of a confession.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Crosslin, for I have sinned.
Right, you have sinned. Yeah, right. My son, please tell me, what have you done?
All 3 times that I have listened through the audiobook.
Right.
And finished on Calagah.
Correct.
I have made it about halfway through the next chapter before realizing that it actually switched over.
Wait, you fucking made it through the half of the next chapter? There's so much shit that happens in the next chapter.
Every time I realize it's the next chapter, I turn it off immediately and I freak
oh my
the fuck
god,
out.
the larger world is crazy. It's not that crazy. It's pretty
It's
good.
not. It's mostly just them talking out over dinner.
Yeah.
But there is a moment where they start talking about stuff and I look and I go, oh shit.
I'd be pretty fucking pissed if you started the chapter after the larger world.
I've never made it past 10 minutes into that 16-minute chapter, but Calagah rolls into the larger world so smoothly.
It does. It really
they're
does.
just
It really
the
does.
same chapter.
It's
They're
like,
2 parts of one chapter.
The camp is ready. And then
and I'm
you
like,
cut
all right,
into the
let's
next
go to
chapter.
camp.
It's the camp.
I always listen to these on car rides.
God
so it's
damn
not
it.
like it's like right there in front of me and I'm just like going and they're talking.
I need to give you more secondary books to read where like you're like, okay,
well, I'm like
I got
90%
that done. I got to
of
do
the
the
way
next
back
book.
through the heroes. So because of that, every time I've noticed that's happening, I've switched back over to the heroes.
I'm just thinking about like, oh man, maybe it's time to read The Shining. We'll talk about The Shining next.
Let's do The Shining. Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I've read some of it.
Oh well, fair.
Fair.
Anyway, I digress.
All that to say, Calagah.
Yeah. We head to a distant island. Volcanic activity appears to be marring the surface, setting the stage for our adventure here with Volca and Sir Elamus, of whom has been present in the duel and otherwise. He's been around. And this structure is massive. Hadrian feels like it's wrong, as though nothing within it is parallel, and no one seems to know that this thing is made of from the outside, and in fact, that it is also all black. None of the spectrometry can penetrate it. It obfuscates everything. There's no detection. It's very weird. There's no ordinary matter here.
A lot of times whenever I get excited about a chapter, I say, I have so many thoughts on this chapter. I don't have so many thoughts on this chapter. I have three fucking thoughts on this chapter, and
this
I'm
man is
passionate
pumping
about
his
them.
fists the whole time. Yeah.
First off, this rocks. I don't know how else to say it. If you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out me, Joshua, what I like and stuff,
instead.
I don't fucking know, because I like a chapter that has no plot but just character development. But then you hit this and it's like the most I've been excited. It's like stuff is finally fucking happening. We got like a mystery obelisk. We got some black fucking rock it's all a little bit tilted inward, but you can't see it if you're just looking at it, but you can figure it out if you're smart. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know what it is about this chapter.
It's a million years old.
It's a million years old. It's tilted a little. Nothing was ever here. You can't break it with anything we have. If you
Also,
touch it, it's warm to the touch, but if you touch it, it's not.
Right. Also, you're cold and no one else is cold here, Hadrian. What's happening?
That was what I was about to bring up, but we're going to jump into that in 1 second here. I fucking love this chapter. I love the lead up to it, where you get a little bit more of an idea about Valko, where we learn that she's from a place back in Tavrosi culture, where she lives inside of a valley that's so windswept they have to like build their cultures specifically within rock faces against the wind. We get this moment where he remembers who he was, and he misses the moment of being a noble, and he misses specifically the feeling of the jacket he used to wear in the wind, and how the tails would snap behind him and cast a shadow that gave him a feeling of like being important. And I fucking love that moment, like that quote. Oh, it's so good. I don't know what it is about Calagah, but every time I listen, Calagah is
so good,
really good. There's also there's Valka, there's Sir Elamus, and there's another person. There's like a doctor wearing
some
slippers.
other fucking guy. Yeah,
I think it's a lady, maybe. I don't know.
Couldn't tell you, to be honest.
There.
Like,
good
she's around. She answers
Yeah.
questions. Man, there's so many named characters. Sometimes you just gotta quit.
So, all of that rant to say, they see the structure, they go down to it, and Hadrian, in all of his awe, places his hand on it. And feels violent, terrifying cold, to the point where he has to clutch his hand back to his chest, gasps backwards, and falls.
Yeah.
And then Valka goes, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just colder than I expected." What a fucking dumbass.
And Volca, meanwhile, is like pulling out spheres that are like floating around here like glowing globules that like, it feels so sci-fi in such a unique way that it's like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, it just feels like so out of an alien movie. And then also Hadrian touched this and is like fucking freezing, and for some reason.
It's warm to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I know that there's probably an in-world reason. Fixing my camera, gonna grab my beer. I'm gonna put my little beer can right. Oh,
your
no,
little,
I don't
your
have
little
to.
teal. You don't even have to.
I know that there's an in-world reason.
Yeah,
that we will probably learn at some point, based maybe in genealogy, like the genome that Hadrian has, that awakens some ancient alien artifact within the Quiet's structure. Based on the fact that a lot of what we read this section had to do with Hadrian's specific, surprising, and confoundingly important genome from the blood tests. I just have to assume that maybe there's something in there that interacted with the alien.
That there blood.
construction. I don't know. That's what I'm going with now.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the fact. That's just like my soft theory. It's not even a theory I feel that strongly about, but just based on what we read, based on that, I feel like there's something in the genome that awoken something in the ancient shit.
One of those things. Yeah.
But what I do know is that Hadrian, violence, rage, loss of control, and murder are all tied to cold as a theme in this book. And that's all he felt when he touched that.
That's so interesting. I'd never caught that, actually. And I feel like I'm a more than observant reader in that way. And I love that you've caught that. But it does feel very accurate. I mean, like, even when he's fighting, Crispin, like, he feels like the cold edge of rage,
I don't know if he's ever specifically talked about cold outside of violence.
Anger. Yeah.
Violence, anger, hatred, rage, loss of control.
Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll
I don't know what that means.
Consideration. We'll take that.
I sure would like to.
Under analysis, and we'll see.
Why do they all
like.
tilt a little inside the fucking? Why they all at a little tilt?
I don't know, Josh. Why do I always tilt about 10 degrees to the right every time that we're on camera together? Have you noticed that? I'm not constantly just like one way or another, like a little bit.
Hey, I have a very asymmetrical face. Why is it always a little 10 degrees?
Me too,
tilt
for the
to
record.
left?
Let's be very clear. It's this fucking nose that I've broken so many times. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I've broken mine a few times too. I think our noses actually tilt in opposite directions.
Do they?
It kind of works on camera.
It's so weird because if you look at my nose, it's like
mine goes to my left. It tilts to my left. Where does yours tilt?
My nose technically goes right as we think about it, but the reality is that actually it's like I've got just like a fucking thing that I need to fix there. Anyway, I'm getting surgery on it in January. That'll be fun.
I'm letting mine ride. For it. If I ever
broken
got my nose
4 times and now I snore as an adult. And
get that fixed. It doesn't make me snore. And if my nose was straight, people would realize I had a Tom Cruise middle tooth. But because my nose is tilted, it makes my teeth look like they're where they're supposed to be.
What you've done is you summoned the fans to look at your fucking middle tooth.
Look at it.
No,
my nose is tilted.
You've got 2 teeth.
Where my nose is goes right down the middle. If it wasn't broken, it would be right
that doesn't make you have a middle tooth because you still have 2 teeth on either side.
Oh no, I have important. 2 teeth on either side. It's just the one of them is right in the middle of my fucking
Sure.
face.
We'll accept that. Yeah. I do want to end this chapter. There are 2 other thoughts that I have, and they're pretty short for the most part. Really, one here. I love this quote. I felt an echo of the feeling I'd had sitting in Volka's apartment in Borosevo. Human, Skelson, quiet. We'd never been the only ascendant force in the galaxy. Small and strange as that tunnel was, it humbled me, made me recall that for all my breeding, all my family history, I was but one man alone in a cosmos strange and great and terrible. And this is just like a nice subtle callback to what we were talking about before with like pale blue dot. Like it's not crazy, but it's right there.
No, it's almost a comforting feeling in this to me, where he is just one man in a place alone amongst the stars, but like in a world where he feels trapped by who he is. If none of that matters, maybe there's a chance for him to just be whatever. That's how I read it.
Maybe he can be. Maybe he can't. We've got 7 books to figure that out.
2 quick thoughts here. Yeah. Elomas, we haven't gotten a lot of. He's been around. Feels important. A name that keeps popping up.
Elomas.
I'm excited for Elomas.
Elomas. Yeah.
Do some. I don't know.
Do some. Like poke. Do some.
Hey, do some.
Hey.
Also, I thought it was in this chapter for some reason, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure it is. I think it was actually up in an earlier chapter, but somebody mentions like the Umand. I think it might have been all the way up in Devils and Witches.
Right.
Somebody
Demons.
mentions like
Yeah.
demons and witches. Somebody mentions like Thumond being bred off world, and Hadrian thinks about like a
Yes.
future where the Thumond are sold as like status symbols amongst the elite. And he says, "Prophet that I am." I then imagined the Cielsen facing the same fate. So, being someone who knows what happens later, Hadrian, I don't think the war's gonna go that well for the
It
Cielsen.
certainly doesn't seem like it, does
Not
it?
just because they blow up their son, but it feels like maybe they kind of like enslave them as a people and then sell them as status symbols.
It kind of maybe do worse. Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be better. Could be better.
I'm
Hang on.
starting to
Let's
think
not-
I'm on the Cielsen side, which I already was from like moment
Wait,
one to this
Hadrian
book.
is
but-
our boy, Josh. We agreed.
Oh,
Our boys,
yeah, you're
our
right.
boys can only be good people, as you signed
Look,
on the
here's
paperwork.
the thing, man. People that are my boy, we got Hadrian.
We
We got
got
Aaron Yeager. We got Tyler Durden, right? We got Lisan Al-Gaib, baby.
Lisan Al-Gaib. He's the man.
Honestly, even we got Logan Nine Fingers. These people have
Not
never done nothing wrong.
Glocta right there.
Glocta.
Sans
We got
Dan
Sandan Glocta. You know who's a good wizard? Bias. You know? These are my boys. You're going to talk to me about my
Yeah,
boys?
so right.
You're going to talk to me right now about Heisenberg? You're going to tell me I shouldn't like Heisenberg?
No, he's so close. He's so close. He's got so much of the nuclear theorem under his belt, but he's not quite there yet.
Yeah, fuck
That
all
said, I
these
love
guys.
this opinion. Yeah.
Uh,
There's a clearance call to the camp to give us like the out for the week. And that's where we leave us. Like
no.
they're leaving.
Here's the thing: we go and we eat fish. And that's
You've
what I
already
know
read
for
the
a
next
fact.
10 fucking minutes on the audiobook. So I'm
They
so ready to
go
talk about
and they eat fish.
so ready to fight you about what happens next week. That's
Anyways, we're gonna talk about a larger world through
demon tongued. Sorry, you're looking for me. to
I didn't
finish?
know. I didn't know.
I thought you were gonna do it.
I wasn't scrolled down enough.
through demon tongues. I do want to mention we're now in what we would consider like generally the shorter parts of the episode. Part of this is because we are or the part of the season. Part of this is because we were anticipating to record these during the holidays, and we wanted to give ourselves time. These are now going to be recorded post holidays slightly, but still to give ourselves time because like life is crazy. It's wild.
Hey, you know, I'll do whatever makes people happy.
Hey, we're just not missing a week, and that's the goal, man. That's it. That's it.
I think we're set up to not miss a week, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Okay.
We're so far ahead. But I do want to mention at the very least that like if you missed it, you have to check out our Christmas episode. It was great. We had a good time talking about a number of Christmassy things. It was really fast. Josh made sure of that.
I mean, I did something.
Josh
if
planned the
you-
whole thing.
Yeah, so if you listen to this or you watch this and you go, man, I miss PJ, check out the Christmas episode. It's really going to turn you around.
Is it?
No, it's the most, Josh. It's the worst.
It's so good. It's so good. Everyone listening to
I had a
please
great
listen.
time. We talk about
had a great
music.
time.
We
Yeah.
talk about everything.
It was a very fun episode.
We talk about Christmas.
Yeah.
Also, we talked about like pop punk Christmas albums. If you want to hear us talk about more pop punk shit, like who originally wrote 1985, check out our Patreon because you can get the Devil's
Cut.
the Devil's cut there. Where like today we had a 20-minute conversation before this episode even started, just talking about how Bowling for Soup was not the writers of 1985, which
Right.
I didn't know. But now I know,
I
and
can't
I
believe you
feel
didn't know that.
superior
That's
to the
so
rest of my
fun.
friends.
Yeah.
Also, Bushwalker's a good producer, but he fucks up some albums
He
sometimes.
really does. He's good, but sometimes bad.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. You can find us on social media at Words Whiskey Pod on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, feel free to shoot us an email at wordsandwhiskeyshow@gmail.com.
Beyond that, I want to give it like a real quick call out, like Josh had mentioned before, patreon.com/words and whiskey. You can support everything that we do here and across all the shows that we continue to support and advocate for that are part of the network with Atomic Pylon Media. That includes Catacomb Party, that includes Howlerpod, that includes Books and Baddies. There are so many other shows that we kind of have under this little umbrella. We support the ball based on the funding that we get through Words and Whiskey. So we really appreciate anyone who's there and or supporting us through the other umbrellas as they exist. Beyond that, leave us a review on your preferred platform of choice. We are now on YouTube, and it means a great deal to us if you'd subscribe. We've since surpassed the viewership hours required in such a way that we have blown past it by 10%. Excuse me, not 10%, 10 times the expectation for viewership hours. But subscribers are necessary for us to like get paid there. So if you're listening, watching, whatever you're doing on YouTube, please subscribe. It's so great that you like seeing our glorious faces and like commenting on these things, but it makes a very big difference. If you don't, we will not only stick you in a feud crash, but we will ship you directly into the sun. We hope you never see land again.
And if you do see land again, you're definitely going to get an Uman tentacle straight down the throat until you pass out and you see your old mentor.
With that, we'll see you next week.
Oh wait, I do have one more thought. One more thought.
Okay.
Just end it there.
Oh, with that, dear listener, there are endings, and this is one.
Damn, I really just wanted it to go out.